These computers.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
I'll move.
All those in favor? Michael?
Aye.
Kevin?
Yes.
Who's next? Shelley? Aye. Rebecca?
Aye.
And Jane, aye. That passes 5-0. Approval of the minutes from December 15th. Do I have a motion?
I'll move. Second.
All those in favor? Michael?
Aye.
Kevin?
Yes.
Shelley?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Jane? Aye. That passes 5-0. We're on to our Ojai Unified Value Awards. Recognition of Miners Oak student Xander Fraunhofer for Ojai Unified Values of Wellness and Inclusion.
And tonight we have Richard Bird. I was just checking. I believe, Richard, you are online. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm here.
And great. I'm going to spotlight your video and he will be introducing our student today.
Well, thank you for having me. For those of you who don't know, my name is Richard Bird. I'm a 5th grade teacher at Miners Oaks Elementary. And I've had the great fortune of having Xander Fraunhofer as a student for 2 years in a row. And in my humble opinion, there is no other student, in my opinion, that embodies wellness and inclusion like Xander. First, Xander is a wholly positive person. I can honestly attest to the fact that in the 2 years that I've known him, I've only really seen Xander like upset once. His positivity is really contagious in that it never seems contrived or inauthentic. And more than anything, he is very supportive. He's very understanding, and he's very encouraging of his classmates. I honestly believe that this is why he is one of my model leadership students. He is always willing and able to do whatever it takes to get the work done, regardless of whether it's coming first thing in the morning to school and helping to raise our flag on the flagpole, or helping to box 1,300 individual food items for our holiday food drive. Xander approaches his work with confidence, humility, and a smile on his face. Furthermore, Xander is an amazing athlete. Not only is he a voracious mountain biker, but he is a medal-holding wrestler. His constant practice is a testament to his dedication, which he has made to fulfilling his dream of one day becoming an Olympic wrestler. When taking all of these characteristics of who Xander is into consideration, I've come to the conclusion that Xander Fraunhofer epitomizes the Ojai USD value of wellness and inclusion. So thank you very much, Xander. I'm proud to be your teacher, and I'm proud to be given the opportunity to honor you this way. So thank you.
Xander, would you like to say anything?
Thank you to Mr. Bird.
Thank you, Mr. Bird.
And as a
Thank you.
reminder, this award is sponsored by the Rotary Club of Ojai. And so each student who is selected receives $50 for themselves and also $50 to donate to a nonprofit of their choice. Xander, do you know who you will be donating your funds to?
Yeah. I want to donate the funds to Beat the Streets LA.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We also are recognizing Chaparral High School student Cte Rivera for the Ojai Unified Value of Wellness and Inclusion.
And we have Ms. Bauer here today, who is here to introduce our student.
Oh, wait. There we go.
I don't see you on video.
I should be on there now. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
Oh, do you see me? I'm over here.
No. There we go. Thank you.
There you are.
Okay, okay, good. Hi, everybody. I'm Dawn Blower from Chaparral High School. And we're here tonight to honor Cte Rivera. for her Rotary Award. We're very proud of her at Chaparral High School. She's our student. So we all wrote something up. I'm just going to read it to you so don't miss anything, okay? Cte Rivera is exactly the kind of student we want to see at Chaparral High School. She has overcome many obstacles to get where she is today, and we could not be more proud of her progress and willingness to complete work. These last few months have proved difficult for Cte, and she still manages to help her family complete work and work at various places of employment. Cte is a resilient student and human being. She has been attending school every day and understands the importance of education and plans to attend community college, which has pushed her to produce quality work that the staff at Chaparral is incredibly proud of. When thinking of students who exemplify wellness and inclusion, Cte stands out because she helps students when needed and has built quality relationships with all teachers and staff here at Chaparral, as well as the students. While there are many students at Chaparral who produce work and graduate, Cte exemplifies the grit and toughness to overcome difficult situations needed to succeed not only in her education, but in her life outside of school. Over time, Cte has learned to be an advocate for her own education and has shown that she has the skills to overcome situations that are difficult. We could not be more happy to nominate her for this award, and there is no one that deserves it more. I'd also like to add that since we wrote this, because we were supposed to come a few months ago, she is now graduated and is working at Montessori school in a full-time position. So it's wonderful. So congratulations to Cte. Thank you to Rotary. And Cte, where are you? I don't see you. She's here.
I'm right here, but I can't figure out how to turn on my my camera.
Oh, okay. Well, this is Cte Rivera, everybody. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Cte,
So-
would you like to tell us where your, say a few words and potentially also share with us where your $50 donation will be going?
I really couldn't have done what I did without the support from all of my teachers at Chaparral. And I am incredibly grateful for all the support that they have given me. The Humane Society.
Wonderful.
Good job, Cte.
Congratulations, both Cte and Xander. We hope you have a lovely evening. We would like to move on to our volunteer recognition. And this month, we are recognizing our volunteer, Hillary Plichter, excuse me.
And Mr. Bird is back to introduce this as well, as Ms. Dutter is out tonight and not available.
Hi, thank you again for allowing me to speak on behalf of Ms. Dutter here. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to acknowledge an amazing volunteer we have here at Miners Oaks School. Miners Oaks is fortunate to have quite a few dynamic and hardworking volunteers, but tonight we would like to focus on Hillary Plichter. Hillary has jumped in with both feet to help our campus and our community in a number of ways. Hillary is the mom of Landon and Tatum, who are in 5th grade and 3rd grade respectively here at Miners Oaks. Hillary has a thoughtful demeanor and she is good at approaching problems with insight and concluding with a productive outcome. She enjoys helping others and does so in many ways. If it weren't for COVID, it is certain that Hillary would be busier than ever helping us with school activities on campus. As it is, Hillary volunteers regularly in our school library, helping out our wonderful librarian, Catherine McInnes. Hillary helps organize materials, support student book searches, tidy the library, and shelves books in the correct spot, which is no small consideration, as Ms. McInnes will tell you. Hillary volunteers with the Miners Oaks PTSA. Earlier this school year, Hillary could be found at our jogathon, preparing refreshments for runners, marking tallies for student laps, and yelling out encouragement to everyone. Hillary is also quite active with our local nonprofit organization, Food for Thought. Among other volunteers, Hillary works closely with Lori Hammer, Greta Stroutman, and Gloria Anaya to not only help the Miners Oaks Garden Club, but also other school gardens such as Topa Elementary. At Miners Oaks, Hillary gladly spends time in preparing the garden for student visitors on Garden Club Day. She also devotes additional time in the garden so that it doesn't become unmanageable. Weeds can grow quickly, as many can attest after these lovely rains we've had recently. One teacher, Lori Wheeler, shares that, quote, as soon as Hillary enrolled her kids at Miners Oaks last fall, she expressed interest in volunteering. She started out volunteering with Catherine in the library and now has a few volunteer positions that others can speak of. She gives so much time to help our school in so many ways, some behind the scenes. We are grateful for generous volunteers like Hillary Plichter, who make our school, the community, and our world a better place. It is our privilege to acknowledge Hillary's kind service tonight. Thank you very much, Hillary.
Are you there, Hillary? Did you want to say something?
Better indicated that she wasn't going to be able to make it.
Okay. Well, hopefully she'll watch it when she's available. Thank you, Mr. Byrd. We'll move on to, I have no public comments for general. Not anything to come through.
While you're doing that, board members, you are welcome to have your cameras on, but you do not have to because we have a camera focused on the entire table. So if you would not like your cameras on, you are welcome to turn those off.
Okay, we move on to 6.2, our Student Advisory Council. Do I have, I think Bridget and Emma were going to try to join us this evening. Are you, either of you here?
I believe Bridget thinks that Emma is doing it, and I just asked Bridget to check in with Emma because I didn't see her on here.
Emma, are you on? If not, we'll move on and we'll come back if they show up. That might be my fault because I did say I would send them the link. We also do not have our CSEA president here tonight. Are we having comments from our Ojai Federation of Teachers, Jake Hansen?
Yes, Mr. Hansen is here. He's at the back, but we would invite you to come down to the podium for your comments tonight.
I don't have much prepared tonight, but I think the membership would like me to thank you all for your discussion and thoughts and comments on last month's topic of the face mandate in schools. We don't have any opinions on for or against the agenda items that are tonight, so I don't have much to say. I did want to say though, for the community who is watching, that the teachers do stand by keeping the schools safe and open during this surge of Omicron. Thank you.
Thank you. Board member reports? Anyone care to report out?
I have something. I just wanted to say, I just take a minute and say, I was listening to a podcast the other day about how many schools are going virtual right now because of the COVID epidemic. The head of the National Schools Superintendents Association mentioned the strain that he's hearing from superintendents that he has never heard before in this country. He's hearing from superintendents who have reached the breaking point and are reaching out and talking about ideas of suicide because of the strain that schools are under right now. And I just wanted to take just a minute to acknowledge that strain, to acknowledge our staff that are working so diligently to keep our schools operating. As Mr. Hansen just noted, our teachers really giving their all to keep our students in the classrooms. I just wanted to take a minute to notice every Monday, I don't know how many of you out there are watching the Monday Minute, but the amazing things that are going on our campuses despite this epidemic that we're all dealing with. I see our administrators who are giving their Saturday mornings to distributing COVID tests to keep our schools open safely. I see our superintendent working all day to solve problem after problem to keep our schools open, and then stay up till the wee hours of the night to bring grant money into our district, creating continual improvements for our district programs. And I just want to recognize the difficult work that our teachers and our support staff and our students, whose school experience is still disrupted by COVID, are doing every day. I want to acknowledge all of this. I know things will continue to be difficult, and I am eternally grateful to the OUSD community that continues to go above and beyond for our students. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Anyone else?
I have something. Last Friday, there was a candlelight vigil for one of our teachers, Miss Sherry Asher, and most of the board was there. There were a good turnout with a lot of people. She was a very well-respected, kind, caring, lovely human being, and I just, want to acknowledge her passing and the hardship that all the kiddos that she was currently teaching, they're, going through. So, that's all. I just wanted to acknowledge that she had passed and that we all miss her because she was a really great person.
Thank you, Rebecca. It was very powerful. So I thank the staff who put that together. I just have one comment. I received an email, and it's the second one I've gotten, or maybe actually this was in the public comments, about the money that the board is making and putting in their pockets. So I would like to say once again that this board receives no salary. I'm going to say those words again: zero, zip, nil, nada, no money. We don't get paid for this job. So those of you who are on social media accusing us of making decisions to line our pockets, it's frustrating to hear that because we do this as volunteers. We are elected officials and we spend quite a bit of time working on it. So I would just like to put that out there. And now 6.5, I assume we have not yet heard from Emma or Bridget. We'll have them come to our next meeting and share a few things because they had some great ideas. So 6.5, our superintendent's report.
So with everything that we have been hearing, we have a little bit of a longer superintendent's report today because we have a lot going on in the district. And I also want to highlight some of the things and in addition, give an update on COVID. So first and foremost, I have arranged a few of the things that we're doing around our 4 community values that are reflected in the work of the school district and in our district vision. And the first is wellness. I sometimes hear that there is not enough in this community to do for kids, which I believe is true, and that we have been actively working on over the past few years, including redoing the basketball courts and a lot of our public spaces so that students can access it after school and on the weekends. I have, if I can show you this, a little video of our youngest member in the community utilizing our disc golf course that we just put in at Matillah. This is actually David Rogers' son, who is making his first putt on the course, which is now open to the community. So we are always actively working on finding additional things for students to do in our community, using our schools as the heart of the community and of our public space.
And did you see that form?
Yes,
Wow.
that was better than I could do.
I just played for the first time and it was way better than I could do.
So I also wanted to just notice a few of our community partnerships that we are continuing to work on. The farmers market, the Ojai Community Farmers Market that we have every Thursday, where we have our students who come and showcase their entrepreneurial skills, either through things that they grow or make. And we've been working with the farmers market to actively expand opportunities and activities for students at the Thursday market, including having once a month reading sessions. And we have little carpets that we put out, and the library comes and reads to kids. So that is another one of our partnership activities. We also had our first Matillah Middle School mountain biking club, which we are very excited about, and also committed to making sure that all students who want to participate have a bike. So having access to a mountain bike should not be a precluder to being able to participate in this event, but we are very excited to provide safe and healthy activities for students outside of school. We also, in that same vein, are bringing back our elementary dance program, which is very popular. It is held at Miramani School, but it is open to students throughout the entire community. Again, this is a fee-based program, but we want to make sure that being able to pay for this program is not a prohibitor from being able to participate. So students who can pay the fee are welcome to. Students who can't, we accept on a scholarship basis. We're excited to see that happening. And there will be a performance, I believe, in May, which is the cutest thing you've ever seen. So we look forward to that. This is, I just want to note, an old video because students don't have masks on. So this is an old picture, but students in this program will be following all the indoor mask mandates. I also want to give just a little update on our solar project. I have seen on social media a few people suggesting that one of the things the district could do is move to solar to offset general fund costs, which is a great idea, and we are actually doing. It's a long process to go through, but we are moving towards solar energy, and our team has been meeting weekly with the design team. And we even have a student intern from Summit who meets with our Snyder Electric group. Is doing a great job. We're studying the return on investment on solar projects at each site. And what we're finding is at some sites, it may not make sense to have a grid connected system. And so that's the work that we're doing right now. And it might be, it might make more sense to have a bigger array at some of our bigger sites to offset what would happen from some of our smaller sites, like for example, Summit. Would be quite expensive to connect to the grid. So we're analyzing all of that right now. I anticipate that we will come back with a proposal that does not have solar on every single site, but has enough energy generated from our solar projects to cover the energy needs of every site. We will have a 30% design plan completed by the end of January. And then there's some new legislation called Net Energy 3.0 that really significantly reduces the return on investment for solar projects. And it's coming up very quickly, but because we had already started this project, we were able to submit our paperwork to be grandfathered into the Net Energy 2.0, which makes this still a viable financial project for us. So our timing is really good on this project. I look forward to future updates coming back to the board. Designing for Joy, which is one of our principles we talk about all the time. We have a new student art display honoring Gray Duncan, another teacher who passed away earlier this year, and the artwork of his students, which is on display in our new beautiful library at Nordhoff. We also are working very hard on parent, student, staff, and community engagement. These are some of our upcoming events just in this next month. As you can see, tomorrow is a very busy day. We have our Safe Social Media event for all parents who are interested in how to ensure that their students are who are utilizing social media are doing so in a safe way. We also have our coffee and conversation with me at 7:15 in the morning. And tomorrow I also have my Superintendent's Council event with our Nordhoff students where we ask them about feedback. We have our Soup with the Soup event where I go to every site and I have lunch with all staff members. We have our virtual Future Freshman Night coming up on January 20th. Our Save the Play dates, which is for incoming TK and kindergarten parents. And then we continue to have our Coffee with the Principal events. Might be a walk with the principal, whatever that looks like. coffee on the patio. Every site will be hosting one of those in the next month of January or February. We also are continuing to support our families throughout the district with additional services. We have a roadmap that we send out every single month, as well as a newsletter that provides a summary of all of the services in the community. Sometimes for our families who are in need, it is very difficult to navigate to the services that are available in the community. One thing that we hear almost every single day, and this is new this year, is about our families who are on the verge of homelessness. And they have a really difficult time connecting to services. And so I'm very proud of our team. Alex Mejia and Linda Jordan have developed a great list of resources. And so if we have families who come to us and say, I'm going to be evicted in 30 days, we have at the ready a really easy list of places that they can go to for assistance. I will share there's not as much assistance as we would like, but we try very hard to help our families to prevent homelessness. And then finally, the grant, a slide on grants. Thank you, Shelley, for that. We have been working very hard. These are grants that we've received just this school year. So $1.4 million of grants, including the Strong Workforce Digital Media Academy, which I shared last month, our battery backup for Nordhoff, which I have shared previously. And then 2 days ago, we received the California Schools Healthy Air Plumbing and Efficiency Ventilation Program, $222,000, which will help us with HVAC upgrades throughout the district. And that grant was shepherded by Adam and Alan, our bond managers. We also have 3 applications that have been submitted for an additional $380,000 that are under consideration. And then we are looking very closely at electric vehicle grants. We have some fleet needs throughout the district to replace our aging maintenance and technology vehicles. And so we're looking for grants that would help us do that. There should be a lot of money coming out in this area very soon. All right, so that's all the stuff outside of COVID that we've been doing. So here's where we are with COVID. As of today, we have 30 current student cases, which is 1% of our student body. So that's actually a very good percentage compared to other districts throughout the county, and 6 staff cases, which is 2%. As a reminder, anyone who tests through our weekly testing program, we get those results. So this is not the honor system. These are the test results that we are seeing through our weekly testing. 22.31% of staff have been absent at least one time since January 3rd. So our HR department has been very busy trying to ensure that all staff positions are filled. And our student absences have averaged about 18% a day. Just as a reminder, there's no mechanism to legally move to distance learning. We must stay in person or close. If we close, we have to make up those days at the end of the school year. Mr. Hansen did a survey of the teachers, and about 60% of teachers reported back. And of those 60% of teachers who took the survey, 80% were in favor of remaining the course as is rather than closing and moving those days to the end of the school year. Those are rough numbers. Jake clarified it. We just talked about them, so it's pretty close. Students can, however, go on independent study if they're going to be absent 3 days or more. And then the guidelines for isolation and quarantine are really difficult. They're always changing. Yesterday, I sent a parent square message to our staff. I hit send. I moved over to my email, and I got an email saying new updates. I just sent it out. So that is pretty much how every day goes. We hear there are continued changes coming in the next couple of days, and we're trying to stay on top of that. But we have a number of safety masks or safety procedures that we've been doing all year. And we've added a couple, including the temporary limitation on the number of spectators for indoor athletic events, just for a couple of weeks to make sure that we have fewer people. And then having rapid take-home test kits that were delivered to families last Saturday and this week. As a reminder, the board meetings are in person because the board has to vote to go remote every 30 days and in advance of the meeting. So this meeting is in person because at the prior board meeting did not vote to go remote because it was prior to this surge. So this meeting could not have been virtual. And just a picture of our online or our on-site COVID test, which we have been doing for 2 years now throughout the district at every site, every week. And then this is a little picture of our team at the rapid COVID test distribution, our administrators who gave up their Saturday to hand out test kits. And lastly, our standing ovations. You can see here, these are all the people. Thank you, Shelley, for this nomination for the staff that was there handing out the test kits so that it went smoothly. We also have our Miramonte elementary teachers and staff, Nadine, Ms. Battleson, Mr. Cola, Ms. Burgess, Ms. Patch, and Nicole Diaz, our office manager, who is a very popular nominee on these standing ovations. We also have at San Antonio Elementary, our office manager, our Janine, who is our new healthcare technician, who also does our site testing through the PMH lab. So she works for us in a couple of different capacities, and also two of our instructional assistants. We have at Topa Topa, Ms. Barrios, Ms. Dingman, Heather Myers, and Mr. Ando. And at Matillah, Joyce McCarthy, our school support secretary, who has done an amazing job, particularly with things like our independent study contracts, which are very, very time consuming. And then at Nordhoff High School, Ms. Garrell, Ms. Beebe, and Mr. Munson. So just a few of these. I really like this one for Mr. Munson because it's from a student, which is always a special treat. And I just think this one is very kind and reflective of who Mr. Munson is as a principal. So very proud of these standing ovations and congratulations to all of the staff. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you. We move on to the adoption of the consent calendar. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second. All those in favor, Michael?
Aye.
Kevin?
Yes.
Shelley?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
And Jane? Aye. That passes 5-0. 7.2.1 is our discussion of exclusive right to negotiate the property, the district office property downtown. What we're going to do this evening is we're going to first call the developer forward. I thought he's here tonight and hear from the developer. Yeah. Sorry?
3 minutes.
No, I don't think so. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And you'll just have to maybe move the microphone stand up a little bit so that it has to be very close to you. And even if the people in the room can hear you, in order for the people on Zoom to hear you, you have to be very, very close.
Very good. Okay. Is that close enough?
Sounds good to me from here.
Okay. My name is Bradley Schnell. I'm a member of SBS Dev LLC. I actually don't have a prepared statement tonight, but wanted to introduce myself. To be here to answer questions, both for the board here and also the community at large. I do have a couple points, though, that just to kind of bring up, and then I'll leave it to you guys, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I don't know exactly when the last time we had the opportunity to present to the board was, but it's been a great long time, and we've requested it every single month. And it has been our desire to be in front of you to engage the public more frequently. I bring that up because we have done everything that was requested of us in the ERN. As you'll all review in the attached document, the original Gantt chart set up pre-development would start after the lease approval. The district consultant forced us to prematurely have that meeting against our recommendations with threat of cancellation of our agreement, which was disastrous, ill-advised, and we strongly opposed beforehand, but was not in the ERN and was outside the ERN. And our assessment proved correct. Am I on a timeline?
No, I think that was just somebody coming on Zoom.
The district consultant not only breached that, he also breached the exclusivity of the agreement by having conversations, which we can get into, amongst other things, and made it exceedingly difficult for us to engage with you and to make this process effective, open, and public. Nonetheless, we have performed every responsibility, and I'm here tonight basically to tell you guys that we are still committed to this project. We had a very effective community engagement meeting on the 6th that was constructive, and in spite of the miscommunication, misinformation of a select few individuals who don't want to see this project go forward because they don't have kids that are in the school district and they have all sorts of ulterior motives. We need to be creative here as a community, and we need to continue to work together to come up with the best solution for this site, which you guys asked us to come here. We didn't come out of nowhere. You guys invited us, and we've spent a lot of money to be here to work with you guys, and we need you guys to work with us.
Thank you.
I'm here to answer questions.
Yeah, we will have questions, but I think what we want is to hear from the public, and then as the board starts its discussions, so don't go anywhere. I also wanted to call forward our legal advisor through this process. David, I'm sorry, I've forgotten your last name. Soldani.
Good evening, everyone. The ERN, as amended, runs through tomorrow. So tonight you have a decision to make. Number one, you can extend the ERN. Number two, you can terminate the ERN. And while ultimately the ERN permits the district to decline to enter a project developer agreement or a lease, I recommend, out of an abundance of caution, that if the board votes to terminate the ERN, that it provide a 60-day notice of termination consistent with Section 2E of the ERN and the amendment to the ERN. Under this notice provision, the developer would have 60 days in which to remedy any outstanding deficiencies required to demonstrate to the satisfaction of the district that the developer is prepared to achieve successful completion of the project. Successful completion, as that is defined under the ERN, means a ground lease and a development agreement with the city, and all necessary required local planning authority and governmental approvals of such agreements. Based upon the terms of the ERN and the developer's performance to date, my recommendation as your legal counsel that you provide a 60-day notice to terminate. The deficiencies, I would suggest they remedy in connection with that notice, if they can remedy those deficiencies, are twofold. Primarily, contrary to what you've heard, they have not provided everything required under the ERN. There are financial documents that are identified in Section 2D, items 9 through 11 of the ERN that has not been provided to date. But more importantly, within that time frame, I believe and recommend that these developers need to demonstrate that they have an ability to obtain a development agreement with the city for a viable project. At the conclusion of the 60 days, it's left to the discretion of the board whether or not these deficiencies have been remedied. And importantly, whether, I'm going to quote this from the contract, the developer is prepared to achieve successful completion of the project within a time frame acceptable to the district. I do have to respond to something that I continue to hear from the developers with respect to the district's real estate consultant, that there's some notion that the real estate consultant forced the developers to go to the planning commission meeting or somehow threatened to counsel the ERN. But that's patently false. And I've been copied on several emails that demonstrate that that's patently false. So I couldn't let another moment pass after hearing that again. That is not true. My recommendation to you would be to terminate the ERN and commence that termination process by providing a 60-day notice. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any immediate particular questions? Otherwise, we'll just save our discussion for after public comments. I don't have any.
Before we move on, I would just like to note that there is a car in the parking lot with its lights on. I don't know what kind of car, but its license plate is AVGVSTM. If that sounds familiar to you, you may want to go turn your lights off.
Okay. So we are now at our public comment section for this item. Just a reminder, you'll have 3 minutes to speak, and I will be cutting you off if you go too long. Our first comment, what I'll do is I'll call the person who's coming forward and the person who will be right after her or him. Linda Ratter, and after that would be Bill Miley. Linda, you can come forward. Yes. Actually, I would like to ask that when you speak, you keep your mask on because there's a lot of people close by and then people speaking into the mic.
Good evening. I'd like to begin by saying I was simply going to come and be a support person from the community. I've been in the community for over 40 years, been coming to the community for 25 years beyond that. I've right to the 40 years. I chose this community for a number of reasons. That's not why we're here. I just want to first thank you. I am a retired teacher. I also finished my teaching in the Ojai Valley. I want to thank you for everything you do. I know that you're not paid. I know how much it costs to operate school systems and districts. And even though you reported some wonderful grants, you know, it's just a drop in the bucket when it comes to educating everybody. I'd just like to encourage the people that have the choice in this matter to realize the scope of the change of the ambiance of Ojai for Ojai's sake. We are a particular community of artists, of teachers, of people, of citizens who a lot of people come and love that part of it. And to radically change it by adding huge buildings or lots more traffic, a lot of people can speak to that much better than I. I just think that I know that a lot of time and effort goes into these things, and I'm not informed to the extent that I would like to be, but I'm just here to say, please consider the impact of going in support of something just so different than what we have. That's it for this evening. And thank you for everything.
Thank you. Bill Miley, and after him will be Nicholas Otway.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Bill Miley. My family and I have lived here since 1968, 53 years. My deceased wife, Cookie, was a teacher. My points: 1, it appears the district finances are no longer short with recent new sources of funds, and therefore it can be assumed there's no longer a need to turn Chaparral property into an income source to balance current budget needs. District funding currently seems okay. Therefore, the process started in 2019, which we are here for, is trying to meet a need that doesn't seem to exist. So why continue? What now is needed is to focus on student enrollment and academic accomplishments. Student enrollment is down because housing costs have decimated young family housing availability in the Ojai Valley. The district should stand behind affordable housing proposals, one of which is currently could produce 100 new family homes. Then there is the academic level of testing. As I understand, the major barrier to high academic performance is language fluency. Many of our children speak 2 languages with English as their second. I only speak 1, and I wish I could speak a second. With rent so high requiring large amounts of money from monthly budgets, families have less discretionary funds to help their kids. The Chaparral property is a huge potential asset best considered for educational efforts which benefit all. The overall Chaparral property could be a futuristic learning land, homes for teachers and support staff, homes for families, artistic center, a live and work for artists, a community convention center, special academic offerings. As to renewing the ERI, I want to urge your board to reevaluate where we are now and what has been done in the past. Future education and learning value should be 100% the goal for this valuable property. It should stay 100% within the valley. In conclusion, please seriously consider not renewing this ERM. It was signed in 2019. The last event held Thursday, January 6th was like a beginning. They asked, what do you people think we should be doing and put here? It appears nothing significant has been accomplished in over 2.5 years. I would suggest the majority of this community no longer believes this company can represent our values or guide this development into a comprehensive program. With the November election coming up and maybe up to 3 trustee seats open, please place this work on hold pending the outcome of the election. This asset needs a slow, steady study with much community input. Thanks.
Nicholas Otway, followed by Elena Pascarella, excuse me.
Yeah, my name's Nicholas Otway. I'm a local architect. And first of all, I want to applaud you for your service. I've met and talked with a few of you up there. I wish I'd met and talked with all of you. Since I was a student at UC Berkeley, I've been watching downtown Ojai. And today, here we are. We shouldn't be talking about declining school attendance. We should be talking, how do we bring young families who would like to live and enjoy Ojai as much as we do? So I suggest that you take a break and clean the slate so that all the ideas, some of which you've seen from me and you've probably heard from many others, are possible on this site. And think about the thing that you're all up there for, which is education. First of all, the kids, but it's your education too. And I suggest that by cleaning the slate and opening the doors to everything this community has to offer, not just to the school district, but to the town. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I just wanted to thank you also for keeping our schools open for our students. My name is Elena Pascarella, and I've been an educator for some 15 years now. I started as a 4th grade ESL assistant back when I was 19. I became an English high school teacher and taught in Santa Ana, and most recently taught at OVS. Presently, I came back to Ojai and I taught OVS. And presently I am actually a substitute teacher who is very busy with the Ojai School District. And we thank you too. Yeah. The development of the historic Ojai Town Square brings up so many different aspects of concern for me and our community.
And I would like to focus on the issue of quality of public education in the Valley and why it is that so many parents in the community do not value it and send their children to private schools instead. According to Jeffrey Starkweather, Ojai community leader, who's going to be speaking later, 1 out of 4 of the student-aged children in the Valley do not attend OUSD. We need to look at why this is. And perhaps if we looked at education as a business, we might make some changes. If we are providing an inferior commodity, which is what parents perceive, and they are the consumers, then they have no other choice to send their children to a superior product, which would be the private school. When it came time for my son to go to middle school, I spoke with various parents and was dissuaded from sending him to the Matillah mosh pit, as they call it. And instead, I sent him to Sunset School in Oakview, which is a K-8 charter school in Ventura Unified School District, where he is a thriving 8th grader today. When the swastika incident happened in 2019, and other parents spoke to me of the negative issues that they've encountered at Matillah, I thought that I had made the right decision to not send my son here. Today, in fact, I have subs tell me that they avoid subbing at Matillah because the children are disrespectful and unruly. A possible solution for the middle school issues would be to transform all elementary schools from elementary schools to K-8 schools. A study published in Harvard Education cites several reasons why students who attend K-8 schools have a significant advantage over their peers in middle schools. They have better attendance, lower suspension rates. They also score better on reading and mathematics. Not only do K-8 students outperform their middle school peers academically, but studies suggest that they are more likely to feel confident in their academic abilities, since the middle level grades can be a time of emotional upheaval. Promoting self-esteem in this age group is critical. The USD needs to come up with innovative reforms of the present system to motivate parents to return to the district so the budget does not rely on development as a means of income. I'm interested in the OUSD and educators and parents to know what you think about possible proposals for change.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut you off.
Of K-8 schooling. Okay.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, I hope that we can work together to come to a solution that will bring a viable solution to our education in the community.
I'm sorry. Next up is Jeffrey Starkweather, and after that is Delaney Labar.
Trustees, fellow citizens, I urge the trustees to terminate the ERN tonight, excuse me. Based on the developer's performance at the Planning Commission hearing and the recent Zoom community forum, I do not believe the residents of the Ojai Valley have any reason to trust their continued work on this project. Moreover, the majority of our community has spoken clearly and loudly that they do not want this valuable public property converted to the highest and best commercial use. Instead, the community and the school district need to revisit the actual problem this was proposed commercial lease was mistakenly alleged to address: falling student enrollment and below par student performance. Any future development of this property should be only for school-related purposes, primarily to attract students and improve school performance. I have heard some great suggestions how to leverage this asset. Now it is time for a big pause on considering any specific development plans for this property. I have on several occasions proposed to this board and to Superintendent Morris that we should instead hire an experienced and educational research and consulting firm to help us do a detailed examination of these school challenges using something like a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This type of consulting firm would also help us develop a long-term strategy long-term strategic revitalization plan that looks at successful best practices employed in similarly challenged school districts across the state. The primary goal would be to attract new students from within the valley and students outside the valley who could attend our schools, including Ventura and Santa Paula. We are not now experiencing the same extreme fiscal crisis we were in 2012. One aspect of this lease that I have never heard addressed was what the money was going to be used for, or how the money was going to be used to improve our schools or to bring in more students. Regardless, today we're in much better financial shape. We're getting considerably more money from the state. Newsom's budget, Governor Newsom's budget has greatly expanded school funding thanks to a $35 billion budget surplus compared to $19 billion deficit in 2011. And one of the original justifications for this strategy was that our school facilities were falling apart. But since then, we have passed over $85 million in capital facility bond money, including $45 million to support funding. Am I done?
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to turn it off.
I just lost my place. $45 million in unspent funds from the 2020 successful bond referendum. There are no detailed plans for how the OSUD is going to use this money for the purpose of which they promised, which was to improve student performance.
Thank you. I am going to cut you off. We have the rest in front of us. We'll be sure to look at that. Delaney to be followed by Trevor Quirk.
Good evening. Delaney Labard, thank you so much for the service you give to the education in this valley. It's really hard times for schools these days. When I think about that lot, with regard to the contract, because I'm kind of new to this, I don't know if the developers were given a fair shake at the front end. I don't know if what he says about having to show the highest possible revenue stream kind of project was the only thing they were allowed to put in. And, they had all these restrictions. I don't know about any of that. If that's true, then they should be given an honest shot at whatever it is we do want to do. But that's for us to figure out. And it seems to me that with a really wonderful historic school building and property like that, we should stay within the realm of education. No doubt by this point, you've seen Mark Whitman's drawing of considering it for the arts and reusing buildings that are already there and fortifying them for the different areas within the arts. Another possibility is to develop some really good trade school classwork, because not everybody's supposed to go to college. Not everybody wants to go to college. We need plumbers and we need car mechanics and we need builders. So that's another way to go. And if you're looking at housing, then let's do some educational housing. Let's use that as a template for trying some straw bale housing and some cob housing and some, tiny housing and different things to create a community center there that people can see. I mean, maybe there's many different ways this can go, but and there can be revenue sources for the school district, which, if we're flush right now, mazel tov, that's a wonderful thing. But, looking forward, you want to build a strong foundation on continuing to have funding coming in, not just being on the dole necessarily from the state, if we can. So I would urge you to look towards keeping it an educational facility. And that might be many different parts to it. And that might be too hard to manage. So maybe you have, as Mark suggested, a nonprofit who really puts this whole package together. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you, Trevor Quirk, followed by Shale Shurchuk. Thank you.
Sounds like this building is in danger of imminent collapse. It's not quite the same in that way, but I think.
Let me continue playing this. This is Brian Veet from your January 6th community meeting with Mr. Schnell that was so effective. And I know some of you watched it, but this is something I want to talk to the board about.
Danger of imminent collapse. It's not quite the same in that way, but I think the point that does carry over is that doing nothing does have consequences. And those consequences could be the collapse of the school district.
The collapse of the school district. So that's where we're at now. 3 meetings, 2 years later, and you've got a developer who you're having to have your own lawyer stand up here, correct, and say that is giving this community false information, and having their own unilateral meeting on January 6th, telling us our school district's going to collapse if you guys do nothing. He's trying to scare you and scare us into bulldozing our school district and putting up a 200-room mega hotel. And my question for you is, who's buying? Because the community ain't. 3,193 people do not. Here's the petition I'm putting in your brown box. 5 reasons to say no. Something else before I forget. This opposition is led by people with ulterior motives who don't have kids in your school district. I started that petition. I'm very opposed to this project. I got 3 kids in the school district. 3rd, 5th at Topa, 7th at Matillah. You guys are doing a hell of a job. Don't buy any of the crap the developer's selling. Bylaw 9000, that's your bylaws, says that you shall ensure the district is responsive to values, beliefs of this community. So when you're debating this, when you're talking about it after we're done, you have to say, hey guys, we are required to consider what are the values and beliefs of our community. You know what the community wants. Reason number 2, the RFP, the highest and best use that went out in 2018. Ms. Weil, you were on the board. Mr. Rupp, Ms. Griffin, you were on the board. Does that mean my time's up or what is that?
Yes.
Oh, crap. That said the highest and best use, that's not correct. Something else that I really wanted to say, if you'll permit me, Ms. Weil, is no one's talked about the kids. No one has asked the kids what they want. Please, when you're considering this next round after you terminate this contract, hopefully you'll do it to 2B. You can terminate it tonight. Your lawyer will tell you. You can, because they haven't met their objectives. You can do it. Look, ask them. Please do that. When you're going around the next round, ask the kids what they want. Because that's what you're supposed to do. Do what's in the best interest of our town. Thank you.
Next up, Shale, followed by Bradley Schnell. Oh, sorry, Bradley, sorry. After Shale will be, sorry, I'm so bad with names, Lachelle Farrar. No, okay, go ahead.
Hello. Shale Shevchuk. I moved here 35 years ago as Shale Stone. And I appreciate you all here. And I just want to start with, I was surprised to see that this place wasn't packed. Because I don't know anyone that wants this development to happen. And I know a lot of people. So I moved here at 16 in 1987, went to Nordhoff and moved on to Chaparral, and I really appreciated the independent study program. I was able to support myself, and because my family had moved away, and I shared a house here with someone and created a business here for myself. I currently have a business in the arcade, a retail store that's been there 12 years. And I have 2 children in the district. And I just think that the development would undoubtedly push the community out of town to find peace, which is what has drawn people here in the first place. And not to mention even the construction. I could only imagine how crazy that would be, to be tearing things down and building parking structures and in the middle of town. Yeah, really wouldn't look forward to that. But again, thank you all. I appreciate you all. And
Michelle, followed by Quinn Johns.
Hello, my name is Michelle Farrar. Thank you so much for letting us come do this in person. I hope that next month it'll be in person again too, so I appreciate that. Just here again tonight to really hope that you guys will not extend this. If they can terminate it tonight and not do the 60 days, I would love to hear if that's a possibility. That sounds great. I think the room isn't full because everyone we've spoken to has just kind of laughed like, oh, that's never going to happen. Nobody wants that. I'm shocked too that this room isn't full. It is pretty full. The Zoom can't see it. There are a lot of people here, but nobody wants this project to happen. And I am a designer. I do understand about traffic and buildings and constructions and roads and all the things that are kind of going into a project like this. And the placement and the property where it lies in town cannot handle this. It will never make it through city planning. So all the money that we're going to spend on this, just if it even got there, it's not, we're going to terminate it tonight. But if it did, it will never get through. The geographic location in our town, it cannot handle this. It will never happen. So this is a waste of time. We need to end this. Please let's terminate it tonight. Stop it. It's over.
Quinn Johns or Jones, followed by Kim Crane. Is Quinn here? It looks like Quinn. Okay. No? Okay. Then Kim Crane, followed by Vaughn Montgomery.
Hello, my name is Kim Crane, and I'm an Ojai resident of about 20 years. And 20 years ago, my husband and I moved here from Santa Barbara, where I was born and raised. And we moved here because I've seen development. I've seen my small town turn into just a terrible place in terms of for residents. It's just all about tourism. And I mean, it's a beautiful place, but we wanted something smaller. We wanted something a little bit more, where we had control over our kids and just a small town feel where we had space to roam. And so we moved here, and my kids went through the district, and they did very, very well. Both of them are great human beings and have moved on to having families and that kind of thing. But I look at this project, and I'm a little nervous because I don't really talk in front of people very often, but I know you guys are up here, and I know you care about this community. I see it in each and every one of you. You live here for the same reasons that we all do, because this is an incredibly beautiful place. And that's the draw that we get from tourists that want to come. And of course they want to come and hang out. It's a beautiful place. But we can't lose sight of what makes Ojai special and what makes it unique and makes it want a desirable place for not just the residents, but for other people to come and visit, our hiking trails and our cute little downtown. And I just think, I can't imagine a 200 unit hotel right in the heart of our town, of our community. That's 200 cars every single day, swishing by Westridge, swishing by the light. I mean, it's unfathomable to me to try to even imagine that and how that would affect our lives and our health, safety, and well-being. And you all would be affected by it too. I mean, can you imagine it's a Saturday and you want to get across and go to the lumber yard on the East End? Forget it. How am I going to get there? You know, I'm going to be going around Grand and I'm going to be disrupting people that live in the neighborhoods and the streets to try to get from A to Z. You know, it makes absolutely no common sense to try to put this LA development company that comes in here with some big grand, grandioso vision of what they think is right for our community. And nobody asked us, but now we're here. And I'm begging you, this must be a really difficult thing to have 8 people here making a decision of this magnitude for every single one of the people that live in this valley. I mean, I really urge you to just terminate it. We have to admit sometimes when we make mistakes or when we maybe didn't.
Thank you. I'm going to have to cut you off. Your 3 minutes are up. Vaughn Montgomery will be followed by Abby McGill Henry. Is Vaughn here? Okay, Abby McGill Henry.
Okay, I'm a little nervous doing this too, but I made 2 signs with my kids. Sorry, I'm not good at this. Our kids deserve better and permanent. So first, I'd just like to thank all of you for being here and putting all of your time into all that you do for our community. And I'd like to thank everyone here and everyone on Zoom for standing up for our small town. It's so important. I'm an Ojai native, born and raised here, went to San Antonio, went to Matillah, graduated from North. Lucky enough to be raised in this amazingly beautiful community and lucky enough to have my 2 little girls be raised here too. So I've seen a lot of progression in Ojai, I've seen a lot of evolution in Ojai, but I wouldn't say change. Something of this magnitude is a huge change. Do not change Ojai. Leave Ojai, Ojai. It's a special place. People come here because it's amazing. Don't come to Ojai and change it. Come to Ojai and let it change you. I love the bumper sticker. So I see this as an ill-conceived plan with the wrong partner and the wrong idea. The superintendent's report is actually why I got up here and spoke, because one of the things you said was school should be the heart of the community and the heart of the public space. And we're taking that away to give this over to a developer. So let's keep this a community-based space using community voices. Please vote to terminate now. Don't waste the time of this developer for an idea Ojai does not want. Thank you.
Okay, that closes our public comment section. It's now an opportunity for the board to discuss the progress, the ERN, comments from tonight, from public comments we've been given, written comments. Does anyone want to begin?
I'll begin because I've got a pretty simple take on things. most people haven't seen the ERN, but it's a multi-page document. But there are a couple of things that stand out for me, and they include the following. At paragraph 6D, there's a reference to the development goals of OUSD, and subsection C of that says that it is a goal of the district to use the parcels consistent with general community standards and values as determined by the OUSD. And then it was very important to me to make sure that the following was in this ERN. That the developer recognizes that any proposed land contract and/or project agreement arising from this exclusive right to negotiate would be subject to a vote of the then seated 5-member Board of Education and would require a majority vote to pass and be approved. Developer accepts that this ERN shall in no way inhibit the ability of each member of the OUSD board to vote on any such proposed land contract, project agreement, or any other aspect of the proposed project, as each member of the OUSD board in his or her sole discretion shall deem appropriate at the time of each vote. I am a cancel. I have concluded, especially as a result of the input of the community, that this project is a non-starter. And I believe that the property should be continue to be used as we're using it now. That's my conclusion.
Anyone else? I will. Several of us have been part of the process from the beginning, the RFP that went out. And one of the things that made us really attracted to this particular development was their how they spoke about community engagement. And I actually have their original RFP document, and there's pages where they show people sitting around tables talking, and that was really attractive to us. And I have to say, I've been disappointed in that. I know that COVID has changed things, and that's not their fault. But I think it has also changed our town. I think that people in LA coming up and spending months and weeks here have changed our town. And I don't blame that on them. I don't blame that on us, but it's certainly something that I became aware of quickly during COVID. So again, my disappointment that the project is presented without any changes from where it began in 2019, based on the changes that we've seen in our lives. I do feel like there is progress that could have been made that wasn't made. And I feel like the right thing is to terminate the ERN, but I also feel as an abundance of caution, let's take that 60 days. Let's talk about what successful completion would look like. Though I don't have great hopes for it. I think it's worth giving people an opportunity. I do just a couple of comments. I've heard a lot of people talk about sort of a CTE on that property, career and technical education. I want to voice that there was one in our county that, well, I think it was in Westlake Village, Moore Park. So a lot more centrally located, and it was not successful. It folded. So that's not an idea that I can but I do feel, I think if someone said something about January 6th felt like the beginning, I felt that way. And so that's why I feel like, I don't know about the 60 days, but I think everyone's worth that discussion. Sadly, I do feel like there's opportunities to the board. I'm just sure the Brown Act really prevents us from doing that. It's not a maximized, that's why we have our representatives, so we can meet with them, and they can individually how we're leaning. And I feel like there was resistance to that because of, you wanted to meet with the board, but that's not the way we can govern. And so I have disappointment in that. So I'm just going to say my inclination is to give the 60-day notice and not renew the ERN after that if there aren't great changes.
Okay, I will be happy to speak next. So I was the one that was not on the board when this came about. And so I've been learning about this process. I had yet to be elected when we signed a contract. In my daily life, I work as a chief business official for Ventura Unified. So I oversee all of our properties and our developments. Approximately $23 billion in property, huge job. And I feel like one of the things that I feel very strongly about when it comes to properties, especially school properties, is that they are public property, and public opinion is critical. Community buy-in is critical. And, hearing from my other board members that was the drawing factor to this developer is interesting. I totally believe then that, when we go out, we're required to go out for an RFP, which basically says, hey, every developer, are you interested in this project, right? And they can tell us whatever, they want to tell us. But tonight, as we're deciding on whether the ERN should be extended or terminated, I was kind of underwhelmed by the comments from Mr. Shell, because what I heard was it's the board's fault, it's the consultant's fault, it's bad public fault, but it doesn't have anything to do with us. And it just seemed like the blame was being shifted, which was really hard for me to want to extend anybody's contract when the blame is just. So I do feel very strongly, like, I don't know how I feel about in the future. I do think we do need to take a little break. There are issues with the property. Like, I will tell you, that property is not perfect. There's a lot of, it's not functional as a district office anymore. It might have been at one point, but it's not. And that will require, whatever we do with it, it would require a tremendous amount of money and funds. But those are things that should be fleshed out in community forums, not by the school district, not by this board. That is outside of our realm. It should be done by the developer. Where I stand, I do think like 60 days. I'm looking at it from a litigious contractual obligation to make sure, because our job is to make sure that our funds are protected for our kids. Okay, so I don't disagree with the 60 days because I want to know that our funds are being protected for our kids because our funds are precious. So that's where I stand.
Michael?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I was here at the beginning and we talked a lot about a lot of things. And there really are two evolving questions right now. And that's one is to develop or not to develop at all. And then the second question is, if to develop, what to put there. I refer back to something that Kevin mentioned. We were very intentional in including the obligation to meet community standards and values. None of us wanted to see a 50-foot tower or anything like that. We were all keenly aware of the size of the property, its centrality to the school, to the city, the sensitivity of it, the impact potentially on the arcade and the merchants within the downtown. So none of this escaped our thinking. In fact, we did ask for a lot of ideas, and we got, ultimately, when we put our RFP out, we only got a couple of proposals. So apparently at that particular moment in time, nobody was interested. And so we worked with what we had. Even at that time, there were comments from board members about whether or not some of these things were changeable, the balance between housing versus hotel. There was a discussion about a boutique hotel and a conference center. So the idea of a hotel, 200 rooms, was actually never discussed, but a boutique hotel or a conference center or something like that has been in the conversation from the very beginning. So we need to understand that if you come late to the conversation, you miss a lot of the early stuff. And that's not to say anybody's being blamed for that because we're all busy as heck. So I get that. It is important to know, though, that we were listening and we were trying to hear. Unfortunately, a lot of the ideas, a lot like what I've been hearing recently, don't meet the needs of the district. CTE, Career Tech, I work at a community college, and we do that kind of stuff. Those are the most expensive classes we have to deliver. So that's a problem and that's a challenge. And to say we're not developers, this district is not going to develop that property. Somebody who knows the business is going to do that if it gets done, and we're going to pay them to do that. So whether or not we move forward on development, I think is an open question. The city seems to be way more open to a parcel tax now than I would have guessed 4 or 5 years ago. So potentially that's something to consider to have conversation about. This developer, on the other hand, that question is, if we go forward, is this the people to do it? And I'm unfortunately going to have to come down on the side of no. I'm going to try not to duplicate what everybody has said, but the lack of sensitivity to the needs of the town, I think, to open up with a 200 hotel, just to me demonstrates a misread of the community generally, and I don't feel that we have a good working relationship at this point. Not happy with the responses that we're receiving. Generally, when I have an issue with someone, I want them to work with me, not blame me, and so it makes it difficult to move forward. So yeah, I am at a place where I think this relationship is not working. I'm not happy with what I've seen. I trust my lawyer in terms of the compliance matters. And so I would support a vote to terminate with 60 days notice.
Can I just add, I don't want at all to make it seem like I know that this board did an amazing job at trying to research and vetting and in the RFP process. Like, I know you guys did an awesome job because I know where you guys are all at. So please don't misconstrue my comments. I was just trying to make the difference of just like, I wasn't here yet, but now, so I'm just learning what we did.
That's what it sounded like. That was not my intent.
Okay.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
One of the things that I heard, and I've heard it tonight, and I've heard it in social media forums, is that, gee, the school district doesn't actually need funding. that we're flush all of a sudden, that there is no deficit. And I just really want to remind the community that we can't function without a balanced budget. We can't run a deficit. So what that means when you see that we have balanced our budget, that there is no deficit, it means that our staff continues to be underpaid, that we are unable to bring their salaries up to even come close with the surrounding districts. And so I just want to remind people that the reason that there is no gap that you see is because our staff is supporting all of us in taking the brunt of that. And so it is really important, I've heard from this board many times, to do what we can to increase salaries. And this isn't just out of, it quite frankly is out of appreciation for all of our staff and what they have done, what they continue to do for our students, but it's also a very strategic issue. We have a lot of staff that will be retiring in the near future, and our ability to recruit excellent teachers to the Valley is becoming more and more difficult with the rising housing costs and the low wages. It's going to be tough to bring in new talent into our district. And if we want to continue to serve this Valley, and as I hear people talk about bringing advertising more to students and families who are attending private schools instead of our public schools, it's critical that we really focus on our wages for our staff, which is why we're here discussing this project. It's not that we don't have a gap and that we're suddenly flush. Although I do want to say, if the governor happens to be watching, that we really would, appreciate what he's proposing. And, I hear my fellow board members, and I won't, delve into repeating what everybody has said, but it was very important to us that this be a community project. And we all ran for these positions, not because we are developers. We ran for these positions because we have a passion for education and our school district and our community. And so we sought out others who do have the expertise in developing and knew we needed a good partnership, because that isn't our job, that isn't our skill. And it was very important to us that any developer that we worked with would have good community relationship and really learn what the community wanted and valued, and be able to deliver something that would benefit the school district and the community. And I would agree with Rebecca that we have to make sure we have upheld our end of the bargain. And I do believe that 60-day notice ensures that we have held up our end of this contractual agreement. And so I am also in favor of extending that 60-day notice of termination.
Any other back and forth comments, discussion? What I'm hearing is a motion to extend a 60-day notice of our intent to terminate the ERN unless we see the deficiencies rectified in terms of the development, the ground lease, et cetera. Obviously, we'll work that out in how that's presented to the developer. Am I leaving anything out?
I'll second.
No, I'm making it right now.
I'll second.
Any comments on that as spoken? Okay, all those in favor, Michael?
Aye.
Kevin?
Yes.
Shelley,
Aye.
Rebecca,
Aye.
Jane, aye. That passes 5-0. Thank you to everyone who came out and spoke.
And as a point, 60 days would be a couple of days beyond our meeting, I believe, in March. It will be beyond our board meeting for that month. So we would likely have to have a special board meeting at that time, just for the public's sake.
Okay.
Or to move our regular board meeting, but the 60 days doesn't line up perfectly with our board meeting dates.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to 7.2.2, which is approval of adjusted trustee area or possible approval of the new trustee areas. I would like to point out that the trustee areas were developed in 2019 based on the census from 2010. So there's a new census, obviously, in 2020 that brought forward changes in the voter registration for the district. And the requirements for our trustee areas are that they are representative of their areas and the population in general, and that they are equal as close as possible in terms of we don't want one trustee to have 10,000 voters and another trustee to have 1,000 voters. So that the intent behind it is to adjust these lines based on the new census. And I guess Mr. Soldani is going to present the possible adjustments.
Good evening again. Switching gears. Under the Education Code, specifically 5019.5, every school district that elects by trustee area, which you now do, having recently changed, must, following every decennial census, ensure that the areas are balanced, and it's actually by total population, not by registered voters, but by every person. It's a representation issue, sometimes referred to as the one person, one vote constitutional consideration. And when we talk about what balance means, it's not like congressional districts where they have to be like super equal. You can have a population deviation anywhere from 10% and below and still be presumptively legal. And let me say that another way. Your highest populated area and the difference between your highest populated area and your lowest populated area should not be more than 10%. So you've also, just to add some confusion to the mix, you've probably been aware that the city is going through this process, Board of Supervisors are going through this process. And where the confusion comes in is they have a different process that they have to follow because of the Fair Maps Act that was passed a few years back. And so if you're comparing that process with this process, you're going to be confused. So school districts, special districts, we don't have to comply with the Fair Maps Act. So that, in a nutshell, it requires a series of hearings and some very specific criteria. In some cases, they can even appoint an independent redistricting commission. We don't have to do any of that, really. All we're required to do is make sure that our areas, if they're out of balance, and I will tell you that they are somewhat, slightly, not a lot, but enough where we do have to move some lines to ensure that we are complying with the law and that we remain balanced by total population. One thing we don't want to do, however, is throw away the maps and start over. There's a different process for that. So this same Ed Code section in 5019.5 says that if you are making any changes other than this population balance, you have to proceed in accordance with the other portions of that code, one of which is a rearrangement process. And so it really recognizes that at some point in the past, within the past decade, and in your case, it was only a few years ago, you went through a very extensive public engagement process. There were a series of hearings even before maps were presented, several hearings after maps were drawn. You had different options to choose from. You picked one. It then went on to the County Committee on School District Organization. You went through a very extensive process. And so the intent of the law is not to make you do that again, because it recognizes that you were very thoughtful and you went through this once. It's really just to make sure that you take what you've done and you just make minimal changes to bring it into that population balance. And so with that, I want to introduce to you tonight, I think we have 2 slides. I think we want to show your current areas, and then we're going to show the adjusted areas. We also have the population statistics for each. But we requested that the demographer move the lines over so that we could achieve this population balance. And so the draft map in front of you tonight accomplishes that. And also we wanted to make sure the lines were, compact and contiguous. We didn't want any kind of funny gerrymandery looking lines. Unfortunately, because of that, we do have a couple incumbents in the same area, but that sometimes happens. If that's important to the board, we can look at how we may separate that. It can't be a primary consideration, but incumbency can be a factor taken into account. But in this case, we kind of did it blind to incumbency. As you can see, we basically made the lines more compact. We brought them into balance. And so this is the map. And I would love to hear feedback on it. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the process or about the map.
So I'm sorry, I'm terrible at math, and I'm sort of this, for some reason, comes off like math to me. Is Rebecca now in a different numerical district? And if so, isn't that it just seems wrong, like that people from a district would elect someone and then you've changed the district after the election. Rebecca, it seems like they got renumbered.
No, they haven't. It's just changed.
Renumbered. It's just the same number.
Sorry.
What has changed though, which I literally on the street I live, my neighbors across the street are not my district. In the old version, in the newer version, at least my street is all my district. Does that make sense? It's like dividing the neighborhood very oddly.
All right, so
If I can show you, this is the new one.
this is hell. Yeah.
Okay.
So
We
I'm just going to point out that, so I had some of the same concerns, but what I noticed was that the people who voted for Rebecca generally are being put in a district that will have elections again in 2020. So they're not, if you got moved out of her district, you still have an opportunity in the fall to elect someone again.
Yes,
My concern, the only people, and actually every line drawing is the same thing for some people in that yellow district in the new suggested area voted for Shelley last year, and they will get the chance to vote again this year as they have a new trustee area. So there is the only change that doesn't provide someone with an opportunity to vote again is the movement of Rebecca's area from La Luna to the river bottom. Those people did not get to vote for Rebecca, and they would not be provided an opportunity to vote in 2020.
Okay. So hearing that, one thing we could ask the demographer to do would be to figure out what it would.
The voice of God.
Oh, I was like, did I say something?
You were thinking out loud. That was crazy.
So one thing we could do, hearing that concern, I can ask the demographer what it would do to the percentages if we took some of those census blocks around where Rebecca is and push that into that yellow territory. And I think that would address the concern that you have.
Right, or some of the yellow that actually was her district in the election back into her district and taking the green and adding it to the purple.
Yeah, put it in mine.
And so that was my question.
Or whoever will be running there.
How did District 5 get so big and get turned into a wraparound?
We had one option like that from the beginning.
I know, but it just kind of looks weird.
Well, there is, so it's a function, and you raise a good point. There are certainly these look like puzzle pieces, and some pieces are huge and some are tiny. But it really is a function of, believe it or not, each of these chunks, regardless of their size, have a similar amount of people. It's just that some areas are more sparsely populated. And not surprising, it's the outskirts of town. The farther you go out, the fewer the density. And so you see the area where Trustee Weil and Shanahan are is being probably the smallest geographically. Because if you just look at that, you can see all those little wavy lines. Those are streets. And so that's where the housing, that's where the folks are. That's the most dense area. So I'm not sure I tracked, Trustee Shanahan, you mentioned something about moving a line to the south, and I didn't catch that. Or maybe it was Kevin.
No, I think that was actually, Jane was saying something about pull some of the purple into the green.
So this is the opportunity to provide that feedback so that we can.
Okay, I'm actually I'll try to, because I sense Dr. Morris, is it all right if I just read that? Because it's very confusing to kind of,
And I sent that to David.
okay, but maybe for the board.
For the public, I think it's important to talk about that.
Oh, that might have been on my, I don't have that on my phone. But I had the two maps together. And so I was ensuring that people either stayed in their existing trustee area, or if they moved to an area that provided an election in the fall. And so that's my, and obviously we might not be able to be perfect, but if we can make that our intention and try, that would be my preference. And so if Tiffany can send that to you and send it to the demographer and see if that's possible rather than voting on it tonight. Yeah. It might not be possible, but I'd like to try.
I think it's worth a shot. I think your best bet would be to capture some of what's colored as green there, where Rebecca is, some of that territory, push that over into yellow. It may have a ripple effect and you may have to then adjust everything, clockwise. But I think that that's a reasonable concern and a rational consideration. And I'm happy to take that back to the demographer and bring back a revised version for your consideration at your February meeting. There is a deadline I want to make you aware of, and that is by law, this process has to be completed by the last day of February. So we do have the time to come back and fine tune this a little bit and hopefully bring you something that you feel more comfortable with. And if it takes another meeting after that, we can have a special meeting. You just have to get it done before March 1st, because what happens is if you don't, then BCOE, their county committee, is going to do it for you. And I don't think that's what we want.
Yeah, and just to, I think, broaden the charge for the demographer, I'm sure Jane doesn't care exactly how it's done. She gave an example.
Yeah.
But the overall idea is that somebody who didn't vote in the last election, we want them to be able to vote in the next election, and that we don't want someone having to skip. And so there's probably some adjustments that can be made. They can take a chunk out of mine, maybe,
I think that's reasonable. However, I don't want to assert here that we're going to be perfect in accomplishing that task. There's just because of the mathematical complications and balancing areas, and we can't draw lines anywhere. We have to follow census blocks. And so that's why you see some of those funny shapes, because the census blocks, those are the Legos that we use to build the areas, because they have on them the data sets of all the population statistics. So just in eyeballing this, there are going to be some individuals where that's going to be unavoidable, but I certainly think we can lessen the number of those individuals by taking into account your feedback and making the shift as you have described.
Can I also add, with Miners Oaks, in the new form, it's literally divided in half, and that's like its own little community, which is part of my area. I do like that it kind of goes down further because that's also still part of Miners Oaks. And like I was saying before, I literally was divided on my street. Like my neighbors across the street were not my area, which is odd.
Right.
So I do like a lot of what was done, but I'd love to be able to keep Miners Oaks together.
Keep Miners Oaks together.
I think because of the population density of Miners Oaks, that was one of the things that we have to do is that I don't know that it's possible based on the numbers of people and the density to keep all of Miners Oaks together, but we did look at that.
And we have to be within a 10% variance.
Yeah, you want to be below that number.
And if
That's
you-
the requirement.
This slide here shows kind of the trustee area numbers. And as you can see, trustee area 2 is a little high because we were trying to keep as much of Miners Oaks together as possible. It's higher than the other ones, but this variance is at 6.6%.
Yeah,
right.
Which cuts it well below the legal outer limit.
Which is interesting to note that that huge trustee 5 area is also the least populated area.
Yeah,
even though it is
looks
so
are deceiving. It's all about
Yeah.
how dense it is.
Right.
Nobody lives on the hillside.
We camp out there.
Any other comments, thoughts?
No, I think generally they're nicely done and, very compact. I like to see, real, not weird things. So there's no scorpions in here, so that's good.
No gerrymanders.
Right.
I just want to note that mine is all on a hill, so when I go walk door to door, I'm just teasing.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback.
Thank
We'll
you.
be back next month with the revised map.
We'll move on to 7.2.3. Yay, our mid-year update, the board goals.
We don't have a packed audience for the board goals.
True.
But we have Serena here, who is Hazel's daughter, who is a student at Topa Topa. So we do have a student listening and watching our goals. Thank you for being here, Serena. And I'm sorry for embarrassing you.
Oops, did I just log out? Oh, no, there.
All right, so here's our mid-year update to our goals. You'll see this again in probably July, although we don't have a July board meeting. So either June or August, I'm not sure, some point in the future. So this is where we are as of this moment. We made copies of these slides and we gave it to our leadership team, and we had an activity in which they talked about what they're doing, and I incorporated all of that feedback into this presentation. So this isn't my idea of where we are. This is our team's bringing to you where we are collectively. So your first goal, of course, is the whole child and a comprehensive approach on the overall social, emotional, mental, and physical health of students. And as a reminder, the board sets these goals like the number 1 and number 2 and number 3, and then staff brings back to you the key strategies and the measurable objectives. And so you tell us what you want us to focus on. We tell you as part of this process what we think we will be focusing on that year, and then we bring back to you how we're doing in each of those areas. So the key strategies and the measurable objectives are staff driven. So one of our strategies was coordinate and partner with nonprofit organizations. We have been very busy doing this work. And in particular, we are working very hard to help our families who really are struggling with some of the effects, the ongoing effects of COVID, including joblessness, homelessness, or near homelessness. And so you can see some of our progress that we've made here. New this year, well, first, I'm very proud of the $17,000 in grocery, toy store, and Visa gift cards that was given out in December. That had a significant impact for many, many families. And then also this year, we are taking a more proactive approach to providing additional funding for AP, SAT, and ACT tests. We don't ever want the ability to pay for that test to preclude someone from going on to post-secondary education. We also have been working to really connect our families. Last week, we had a family who came in and they were in the hallway at the district office, and they were in 30 days are going to be homeless, and they had called around to different services. They could not find any help, and we were able to really guide them through next steps about where they may go. So for a lot of our families, we are truly their connection to services. And so this has been a lot of time and effort to build this up. So we know our students, it's harder for them to learn if they're homeless or hungry or don't have access to pay for AP tests or things like that. We also have been working on restorative justice, which is a goal of this board. We had 10 additional staff members. They will complete their training. It's a 3-day training to be fully trained. We had a little setback for COVID, so we had to push that out a little bit, but we will have 10 additional members complete. And we are using this every day. It may be formal through restorative circles, or maybe informal in terms of restorative practices. For example, if we have students who have something happen on site and before they go back into the classroom or they go back to interact with somebody they might have had a problem with, they work through a restorative practice process. We are still working on mental health services. We have a long ways to go, but our team has served 933 individual services to date and 241 group-based services since school started, which is pretty significant. We also have been working on support options for families. As you saw, the newsletters that I shared earlier, continuing with our parent university, so our parents have access to ongoing training on topics that they would like to see. We surveyed them and last year, and this is what they wanted. We continue to try and bring workshops in that area.
And actually, that's one of the things the Student Advisory Council was going to talk about is their peer mental health, the use of that at Nordoff, and it's really great.
Yeah, our peer wellness program is growing. It's new this year, but it's growing it's growing over time. Our Wellness Committee continues to meet to talk about, our Guiding Coalition continues to meet to talk about work that we can do in this area. We are also working with Nutrition Services Department to increase the number of students receiving meals. It's a little bit hard this year because now that food is free for everyone, it's hard to compare pre and post data. And in addition, we have been understaffed all year in nutrition services, and we're having massive issues with the supply chain. And so we haven't been able to, for example, publish menus like we would normally because we never know what we're going to make from day to day. It depends on what comes off the truck. So that has been an ongoing struggle in an area where I think in the future that will normalize a little bit, but this goal is not going to be reflective of the work we'd like to be doing. Vape education. Vaping continues to be a problem on all campuses, I believe, in most districts throughout the country. It's something we are working with. We are sure to address that in our health education classes in 9th grade. And then also we have our vape sensors. And then we really want that to be, if we catch a student who's vaping, we really don't want that to be punitive. We want to actually provide opportunities for education about why vaping is really problematic for young brains. And so we have a vape education program. Our high school has reported that they don't love it. And so we are working on additional vape education research to find a program that maybe might be a little bit better for use. Student achievement. This is a huge issue. We hear, like everyone else in the community, all the time about test scores, and it's difficult because our test scores are at this point almost 4 years old, and we have not had an ability to update. And when we do have new test scores, I believe they will show the learning loss that occurred during COVID despite our best efforts. We are just seeing that there are gaps. And this year, although we have students back in class, it has not been the academic year and definitely not a year of academic recovery because we have so many students who are absent due to isolation or quarantine. And in addition, there are so many really significant SEL needs that are based really on the trauma that kids went through for the last 2 years. And so we are taking a step back, and there's really a lot of focus on trauma-informed care and on social emotional learning. And while we are also addressing academics, I don't believe that this year we're going to have stellar test scores because we're back in person. I think it's going to take us a little while, us and most districts throughout the country, to recover from the couple of years that we were very disrupted due to COVID, including this year.
Yeah, I would actually there's a very big, New York Times best-selling thing out now about atomic habits and talks a lot about goals. And I realize, as a board, take this one layer off. As a board, we tend to, want to see those big goals, those big improvements. And as a community, of course, you want to see that. But it was talking about the shorter steps that are actually success steps that get you there. And I think that really I've always felt that, Cheryl, especially when you came into the position and that became such a focus, that I know I have great confidence that we're getting there. We just have struggled through so much, but I appreciate your continued focus on that.
What did you say?
It's called Atomic Habits. James Clear, I think, is the last name.
So we are, despite all of that, continuing with our PLC work at the elementary. The high school has shifted focus a little bit, and the middle school is doing BAR, which we'll talk about in a little bit. We are continuing with our levered math pilot. One of the things I think that's frustrating for me and for Cheryl as well is that we have, since our test scores and since being in CSI and program improvement, we've put in a lot of effort and a lot of new programs, and yet we are not able to accurately measure their impact because of COVID and distance learning and absences and all of those other things that really make that data not reliable or valid. We are still implementing our raft reading program. I did you'll see it in a little bit later, I have a little ad hoc parent group, and one of the parents was telling me, I love the raft program. I tell all the parents how great the raft program is. And so I find that data to be just as compelling, honestly, as the data that we're getting from students at this point, knowing that data is not super accurate. We did complete our 7 teachers, received our GATE training certification, and we are giving our COGAT test, I believe, this week or maybe next week. So we're excited to have that universal screening tool in place this year. And then for our BAR program, which is really just at Matillah, we have completed our 2 full days of in-person training. We have iTime SEL lessons that are weekly, and we've been doing those at least 1 per week. We have introduced a BAR advisory class. We had a parent information meeting, BAR coach visitation, and there is the National BAR Conference, which is actually in Palm Springs, which is great news for us that we're not sending a team of people, but since it's so close, we're going to take advantage of that and send our teachers and our administrative staff to meet with other people who are implementing BAR from around the country so that we can continue to gather and work on best practices. Nordoff, we had talked about IXL. We used IXL last year, and we thought that we would use IXL, but I would actually like to adjust this key strategy. I do not believe that we will be using IXL at the high school. In the middle school, it's really part of the instructional program, but at the high school, we're shifting to the smarter balanced pre-assessments, and I know the SAC students asked about that as well. That should be coming up shortly. The administrative team has really been working with our teachers on the SBAC pre-assessments and what that looks like, but that is a little shift in focus for us, which is why we do this mid-year update, so you know that that's coming at the end of the year. We also are working on our expansion of arts, STEM, and GATE programs. We have our Digital Media Academy, our elementary dance. We just are implementing a new middle school dance program at lunchtime, which I believe started this week or maybe next week. So we're excited about that. It's a little hard right now because our teachers are really tired. They are using all their energy on serving the kids that are in front of them. And we are very, very hesitant to ask them to do anything new or different at this time because they can't handle it and we can't handle it. So we are really trying to do the best job we can with the things that are in place and to expand where we can, but being very, very sensitive to staff capacity and emotional wellness in terms of what we're asking. Our one-to-one devices, I am actually, when I first started 3 years ago, David and I had a plan to do one-to-one devices, and I think we had maybe a 5-year plan. And we were one-to-one in, I think, 1 year, the year of COVID. And that was never the plan, but it happened. And I'm proud that all students have access to a one-to-one device. That has caused a lot of shifts in our technology department, the way that we service things throughout our technology department and staffing needs. And actually, Jake and I were just talking today about some of the needs that teachers have relative to technology. But that was a very quick turnaround. And so we're continuing to maintain that. And now it's more solving problems like what do we do when Chromebooks break? And we have loaners and cords and all of that kind of management that we didn't have in place when we tried to get devices out the door as quick as possible. So trying to really create strategic structures for that throughout the district.
I have a quick question on that.
Yes.
Do you still have computer lab?
No, mostly no.
Mostly no.
Some sites are holding on to them, but we're mostly trying to move away from computer labs because it's not, it takes classroom space and resources away, and it seems silly that a kid would bring their Chromebook to sit at a desktop device in a computer lab. But we're working. Yes, we're working on that. This one, I also do this report so that you know when we're not going to meet a goal. We've tried to add one new club or program. That was one of our goals. We actually were pretty close to that last year, but it is just really hard. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do that at every site this year. We have some sites that are thinking about adding programs, but that may have been very ambitious. And if you remember when we did these goals, it was, we're kind of in a COVID lull, and we maybe all thought that we were going to have a more normal year than it has turned out to be. And for me personally, and I appreciate Shelley's comments earlier, this has been the hardest year of COVID. And I think for many of our staff, this has been the hardest year because we thought it was going to be normal and it's not. So some of these goals really you will see as we get a little bit further have to be adjusted because it's just not the year we thought it was when we created these. Apply for and manage some of our Cte Pathways. We are working on internships. We had 4 students complete our paid internships in the fall, which was great. Kim Hoy and Brianna Beebe are working on this. We have a whole soft skills class that students do before they complete an internship or get paid for an internship. And so trying to motivate students to get through that class has been something that we're continuing to refine and adjust, but we do have students who are completing paid internships for the first time. We're having our Future Freshman Night in January as part of this key strategy to market options. And in February, I believe we will be bringing you some additional ideas for next school year relative to, for example, TK programs and some other ideas that we have that for new programs that would help with this marketing and expansion. So we are committed to addressing declining enrollment to the degree possible that we can through innovation and new programming. And the person who made the comment isn't here any longer, but I do want to remind ourselves that we brought 160 students into the district through Summit, which is pretty significant to do during COVID. So we are continuing to market our options And we will probably this year also be revisiting the programs that we use for Matillah Online and Nordhoff Online and how we do those. So we need to do a reassessment at this point and have some new plans for next year. We are working on our furniture pilot. You'll see in the bond report that our furniture is on order, but it is taking forever, but it will get here someday.
One thing, maybe the future freshmen should be deferred to a later time than January, given all the concerns. You might be a bit of a dud if people are worried about.
So it's online for that exact reason. We do try and schedule it. We actually would have already had it normally, but we were trying to schedule around other districts, Ventura, who had their interest nights in October. So part of what happens is we get pushed earlier and earlier. And so we're trying to schedule so that we're not so late that it's not relevant, but also trying to pay attention to COVID concerns. So at this point, we just had to go virtual given where we are with COVID.
Just to let you know, the reason we had it in October is because a lot of parents put down private school deposits at that point for the following year. So we were trying to capture for you that.
And the private schools are having their information nights generally November, December. So we're trying to work around all of those pieces, which can be a little complex. This one I'm actually really excited about. One of the things that we have been working to do is use technology for key functions so that we can work smarter and maybe use technology to be more efficient. And so we have a number of things that we're working on. We're working on our online absence reporting, which eventually becomes online time cards. I cannot even describe to you what a heavy, heavy lift that has been, but we are one of the few districts in the county that doesn't use this. Everybody's been using it for quite some time. Not everyone, but a lot of people. But it's required a ton of cleanup on the back end, which has actually been a good process to go through. But eventually, my goal is no more paper time cards. Because that seems, I just can't even fathom that that's a thing that we still do, but we do. Therapy Notes in Place, which is a program where our therapists can take notes through recording rather than typing them all, and it just saves them so much time in completing their reports. QR codes for TK through 2 student logins. We actually have them for all elementary, but this is actually really cool. It's very hard for kids to log into all the different programs that we have. And so Jake and David have worked on this great way through a program we have called Clever, where instead of having to type and log in, which can be hard, especially for our TK through 2 students, they have a little QR code that they show the camera and it automatically logs them in so that they don't have to get frustrated trying to log in to all the different programs. So that has been really great. We've had, we started our help form last year. It's just an online form where people can put in anything that they need. Either, I need a mountain bike for my kid to go be part of the Matillah Hub mountain biking club, or I need tissues in my classroom, or I need whatever. And we have had almost 4,000 help form submissions. I'd guess it's 4,000 because I think I got 200 of them today. They can click the box where they want something to go. So if it's maintenance, it automatically goes to the maintenance Trello board. If it's custodial, it goes immediately to the custodial Trello board. I get them all also because if there's a strange request that doesn't go to a particular department, then I forward it to the person, or if there's something that's really critical. I don't read all of them. But I would say, actually do. I probably read all of them. But it's been really helpful, and everybody now is getting to where there's one place that you go if you need help. So rather than texting an IT technician that your computer is broken, you go to the help form and you put it in, and then it goes to whatever technician's available, and all the managers can help to manage that as well. We have a new warehouse online order form, which has also been very great, where the office managers order, instead of ordering individually and ordering from companies directly, we stock the warehouse, and they order through the warehouse. And I just did a little peek, and our budgets that we've allocated at each site for office supplies have only a fraction has been expended from what they thought, because it is much cheaper and more efficient to order through the warehouse. So that we had that about 5 years ago. We took it away, and then we brought it back now with an easy online form. And then we just put our custodial requests onto Trello. So if you need tissues in your classroom or masks or hand sanitizer, that all goes onto Trello and our custodians see it. And then we just today sent out our purchasing Trello board so that everyone who orders things through purchasing can see where they are, rather than emailing the purchasing technician all day, every day about where is my stuff, where is my stuff. Now you can see that it's been ordered, and you can follow up and tag them on Trello. So we've done a lot of good work there. Equity, however, has been a little bit harder to make so much progress on, just due to capacity issues. I am the primary COVID person in our district, and that takes a lot of time all day, every day. It's really actually myself and Nurse Haley communicating all hours of the day and night about COVID protocols and all the things that go with that. And so something had to come off the plate. And while this is very important, some of these things are very time consuming. And so we're still doing a lot of things around equity, but these large reviews and reports just haven't been possible to give them the time and consideration that they need to be done well. So these are on hold. We may not meet these this year, but we're still doing work in this area. It's just smaller chunks of work instead of these large projects. But at the bottom, we are continuing to translate our documents, and we are, even when we have outside groups that want to send something to us, we make sure that it's translated. I don't know if you know this, but 40% of our families at Nordhoff High School are Spanish language preferred. And so it's really critical for us to be translating information. And in fact, in my student advisory group at Nordhoff, I had a couple of students tell me how important that was for their family to be engaged, to be able to read everything that comes out. So when we send home flyers, we make sure that they're in English and Spanish so that all families have access. And then this is actually an area that I didn't know that we were going to do, and we were able to, through the work of Alex Mejia, have this interpreting for social justice training, which has been really amazing. And we have, I think, 10 staff members. They might not all complete every single one of the sessions, but at the end, anyone who completes everything will get a translation certification at the end of the day. So we will have more than one certified translator in our district by the end of this training.
When it's with respect to social justice, is that broadly just a description of the outcome of the fact that you have these translators, or is it, okay?
It's saying that if we want social justice in our community, we have to make sure that everybody can be heard and understand. We also are continuing our work with our COPA, and we've been trying to figure out the best way in our district to have our English learner advisory committees. We used to kind of use COPA as that function, but we really wanted to have each school site have one. We have not had a lot of attendance, and so we're revisiting ways in which we can have family engagement. Part of that is by having Spanish-speaking employees at each site regularly reaching out to communities and families and building that relationship, and then asking them to come, rather than asking them to come without that relationship. So that's been kind of our learning that we're adjusting there. And then just providing, again, regular services to families. And then Alex Mejia, who is our student services coordinator, has been at all sites. We call her in if we have families who need assistance. And she's really been great at helping our families to feel that connection and to have an actual person that they can call when they have an issue. And we also have a bilingual administrative assistant who is hired at the district office who helps families in Spanish every single day. So that has been a great hire. Thank you, Hazel. Last year, we were having our place at the table, if you remember. This year, that's something that we have not been able to continue, although we hope to pick that up again. We did have a student panel at Nordhoff, and we had a Chumash Elder presentation at Matillah, and we're continuing to do this work at sites. It's just not as robust as it would be if we had more capacity to focus on that.
Can I ask a quick question about that? Seems my memory is that the seat at the table was based on a grant. No.
Well, the grant kicked that off, but they were all free.
Oh, okay. Is that grant money spent?
It is not all spent. So we're hoping actually part of the grant funds, it was a No Place for Hate grant. I think it was $40,000, might have been 20. But part of the goal of that grant was to send some of our English teachers to training on how to incorporate more diverse voices in their English curriculum. Last summer, our teachers did not feel like they had the capacity to go and really listen and integrate that into their work at that time because everybody was pretty exhausted by the time we got to June. So that money is still sitting there. We've utilized some of that money for the social justice interpreting training that we're doing. So we shifted that a little bit. And then we have some left to continue the English teacher training when they feel like they have the capacity to do that. So it's a nice grant because it doesn't actually have a set timeline.
I have a question on equity goals. One of the things that is listed on there is gender, which I'm pretty sure is referring to LGBTQ students. Are we doing anything?
We haven't yet. That's one of those capacity issues where it's on the radar and we've had some initial conversations, but we haven't really put together some thorough and robust trainings, but that's on our list to do. Okay. I know it's really important to a lot of our students. I think we will have an LGBTQ panel at the high school coming up. We generally do in, I think, March.
It would be awesome to see some support groups like the GSA support groups.
Yeah.
Are so helpful for kids.
Yes.
Very much at
Nordhoff
risk.
had one this year.
I think they do.
I think they do as well.
That's great.
Yeah. I think they do. And when we were talking about, for example, our Thrive workshops at Matillah, that was something that came up if that was a particular group. So it's on our radar and we're trying to incorporate it into the work we're doing. And then when we have a little more capacity to add additional work on top of that.
I know capacity is. You guys are next, I believe that. I just want to make sure it's on the radar.
For guiding coalitions, we look forward to getting back to those. Right now, the Wellness Guiding Coalition is the only one that is meeting regularly. The equity one is really important to me, and I've been leading that one. And then we also have the Arts Guiding Coalition and the Environment Guiding Coalition. So if in the spring we can revisit some of those, we will. We continue with our parent engagement, hold our coffee and conversation. Every site is having these parent principal meetings because, as you know, as school board members, I have the same issue as superintendent. When parents bring me issues, a lot of times they're site issues. And I would prefer that they meet with the principal and talk to the principals about what's going on in their site. And then I try and talk about whole district issues. And so really setting up a continuum so that parents have an opportunity to talk with the principals and then to talk to me. And then, of course, they can always talk to you. I also have an ad hoc parent group that's been meeting with me monthly, every couple of weeks. They brought themselves together and asked to meet with me. And so we've been meeting with them and they've been bringing some really great ideas and some thoughts. And, for example, one of the things that they are really interested in is after school programming and more robust after school programming, which again is right now a little bit of a capacity issue, but it's something that we know is important to address as a district. And so that'll be going probably on a future goal that comes back, future key strategy that comes back to you. We already kind of talked about all of this. So in terms of communication, we've had, we did the Monday Minute every single week. We've increased our Facebook followers, increased our Instagram and Twitter, increased our website views to over 6,000 or 60,000, excuse me. A lot of those are me because I go to our
And me.
website for everything, but those aren't unique views. But we are constantly working on revising our website to be easier to read and utilize. You've seen pretty much this. The parent advisory group that I was telling you about is currently calling itself the Ojai Unified School District Spirit Advisory Committee. They're fans of the district and just want to help us to come up with ideas for how we can engage parents in the community in a robust way. Our Student Superintendent's Advisory Council that I have, we already met with Matillah and Nordhoff. I have another one tomorrow morning, which I'm very excited about. And I have some COVID-related things to talk to our kids about. Safety, we are always looking at safety. Our additional security cameras have been installed on each campus. Our bell systems, which are quite old and difficult to use and can't all be heard. We've done some triage repairs, but we really need to replace those bell systems at some point in the near-ish future because that is a safety issue that we have them. They're just not very good.
Are you looking at the newer ones with like the two-way communication and all the cool features?
Yeah, we're thoughtful about how many cool features we would use, but also they mostly all have new features. But right now, our bells can only be reset by an outside company, which is quite frustrating for our principals if they want to change the bell schedule for any particular day and they can't do it. New systems allow you to have a lot more flexibility and to make those changes that are really a problem for us right now on site. Who knew, but there. We're working on our work study of grounds, working on our designing for joy. You've seen a few of those things coming through. Our fiscal health, still working to maintain the fiscal health of the district, still working on an analysis of the business office roles and responsibilities. And as we've had some staffing changes, that will continue to be a work in progress. Boy, plan ahead for the end of ADA hold harmless. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but we'll know in the next few months. But that is a big topic of discussion, particularly because if there's nothing done in this area, the hold harmless would count essentially this year's ADA. And as I've mentioned, we've had massive student absences. And so not only has our enrollment declined, kind of commensurate with the declining student-aged population in the Ojai Valley. Also, we've just had so many kids out, and we want them to be out if they are sick. And so, but to be held fiscally accountable for that next year would be very unfair and hard for all districts, but for us in particular.
But I did hear that the sort of the California superintendents are pushing because right now the legislation, which will make it based on enrollment, it also has a lot of restrictions on it, which doesn't sound good.
I am on that policy committee. Yes, that is true.
And there's also that talk about making it a 3-year average, which would be better than
Yeah.
if we're all in the phase.
Really, what we are advocating for is to move away from ADA in general, because ADA is a problematic model because our costs don't change if kids come to school or don't come to school. Our costs are the same. We hire our teachers, have our buildings, have all of our staff. So to fiscally punish us when kids don't come is really kind of problematic. Like, we all want kids to be in school. So anyways.
So again, Governor, if you're listening.
Yeah. I don't know that we're going to get there, but we are advocating hard at the state level for that. This is great news in our cafeteria fund. If you remember in past years, we've contributed $150,000 at times to our cafeteria from the general fund. This year, we wanted to reduce it by $50K to $100. And if you remember the first interim, there was no general fund contribution required to the cafeteria fund. So that is a goal that we are excited to meet. Working on our positive culture, which is extra hard this year, just given kind of all the social emotional needs of everyone. But we had a Breaking Down the Walls presentation at Matillah, community classroom, student rally at Nordhoff. Friday feedback from students so that if there are issues like we want fries, we can try and give them fries or a mirror in the locker room or whatever issues that we may not be aware. So really trying to collect that feedback from students. Continuing with our elementary areas, craft fairs, harvest festival. At Nordhoff, they have a 5-star student app where students have their ID, and then when they participate in things, it's in an app, and we are really seeing that starting to take off for the first year, where when students participate, they're showing their ID on their 5-star app. We've had a lot of conversations at the secondary level about how to really engage students in a positive way rather than being punitive all the time, how we can encourage and engage them to interact with school. And so the 5-star app is a pilot program at Nordhoff. We've actually had 99 standing ovations this year. This was prior to tonight's. And in every leadership meeting, we start with kudos, and our leadership team brings people that they think in the district have done a great job. And then I handwrite them a card, and I've written 37 cards this year to different staff members that have been nominated by their peers.
Can I ask about the app at Nordhoff? It occurs to me, somebody asked me at one point about equity issues with that, because students have to have a phone in order to log in at a place.
I think you can actually use it also on your computer. So since everybody has a one-to-one device, they can also use their computer.
Okay.
Yeah. We're concerned about that as well. We're also concerned about teachers who are not required to use their personal cell phones. And so teachers can log in on computers as well. We are working on with HR, massive improvements in HR or work being done in HR, onboarding and offboarding. We have a robust onboarding process that we are working on and tweaking every time we hire new employees. Working on an employee handbook. I do not believe we will have that done this school year. I think it will take us all the way through next school year. It's a big lift, and our HR is pretty impacted with the number of staff absences right now. Okay, last slide, other progress. We have given, now it's up to almost 9,000 COVID tests that we have given. We've done 2 workers' comp reviews, and what's interesting is we had not regularly been doing these workers' comp reviews, and we've been able to close a number of cases. We also, for the first time in anyone's recent memory, we actually requested surveillance on an employee that we believed had a fraudulent workers' comp claim, and that claim was ultimately denied. But that's something that in the past we had not been tracking as closely as we are now. And in addition to working on workers' comp, we've started a new program or work with our workers' comp group on something called company nurse, so that if you have an injury on campus, you first call company nurse rather than going to see a doctor, and you have immediate medical support real time. And that has, we've had a couple of instances where we believe people would have ultimately filed workers' comp cases, except that they went through the company nurse and were able to resolve their issues. We also have the WeTip safety program, which is now on our website. So we can, we receive anonymous tips. In fact, I think Cheryl was dealing with one just a couple of weeks ago. So, and the police also get the WeTip safety, the WeTip tips. Working on our website redesign, we've increased our custodian hours, staff training. This one I'm actually really proud of, and it probably could have gone on the equity slide, but there wasn't a place for it. We had a number of custodians who applied for the next level of custodian job, and they, even though they had worked for us for many, many years, they did not pass the test because the test is in English. And they're great workers, great custodians, and they were not able to progress in their jobs because being a custodian does not require robust writing in English. Yet the test to be a custodian does. And so we actually translated our Custodian 1 and Custodian 2 tests into Spanish. And I believe we also gave a test in maybe Armenian. And we are continuing to work on all of our tests so that it's not, it doesn't preclude people from either procuring jobs or moving forward in jobs if it's not a skill that's necessary to be in that position. And then finally, today we are, I just learned this today, actually, we're redoing all of our phone tree systems. So right now, if you call the district office and it says press 1 for this and 2 for this, and they're all outdated. And I just call people's cell phones because I don't want to deal with the phone tree. And also it's only in English. So we are going to use our amazing bilingual assistant to help re-record those. We're going to pilot at the district office. I think we're recording those this week, and then we'll be redoing all of those phone tree systems. So when you call, it will be hopefully slightly less frustrating to get to the right department in person.
It's a ton of stuff. Does that presentation get to the web? Does that get to the web so that it can be found by folks who question what we're actually doing?
I don't know.
Things better.
I don't know, but I'm sure that Linda Jordan is watching right now and taking a note. We'll find a spot.
I just want to commend you and your staff for making giant moves forward during the most difficult time in education history. So I really appreciate everything you guys have done for our kids.
It's definitely a team effort. Every single administrator has been working really hard on these goals. And there were a few where they were like, oh gosh, like, that's right, we have to bring this back up to the top of our list. So, but we're all working on managing COVID and moving forward at the same time. Wonderful. Thank you so much. 7.2.4. Proposal agreement to prepare developer fee justification study. So this is something that we're required to do every 5 years. We're actually a year behind because of COVID last year, but we are proposing to use the same company that we've used in the past. They do a robust look. In fact, they were just in preparation for getting ready. They're already asking us, what maps of every classroom, what's in each classroom, what grade, all of those kinds of things. They do a robust analysis and then bring that back to us. And then that becomes the basis for ongoing developer fees that are levied. So I think it's great timing for this. So is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Kevin?
Yes.
Oops. Michael? Shelley?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Jane? Aye. That passes 5-0. Resolution in recognition of Black History Month. I think this was updated from the original one that was posted on Friday. And there's been some discussion of actually making it more than a month, like maybe from early January to late February, because February is our shortest month. And we've had teachers tell us there's not enough time to get it all in.
And it makes sense with Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Right.
January to have January and February. That's what I'd like to see.
So do we want to make a motion to pass the resolution, but change the dates to recognize?
So move.
So let's say January.
Would you like to start on MLK Day and go
I
from
think that's a
MLK
great idea.
Day through the end of February?
Yeah. So from January 17th through February 28th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Michael? Kevin?
Yes.
Shelley?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Jane? Aye. That passes 5-0.
I appreciate the changes.
7.3.1, I see that Adam and Alan have joined us.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. I don't know that there's any big news or questions or.
Yeah, any questions from the board?
Just how long are you going to grow the beard?
I'm thinking about until the Dodgers win another World Series.
Man.
Could be a while.
The only question I have, things moving well at Matillah for the library?
Yes, we're doing framing. The demolition is done. So we started. It's looking very promising.
We actually made a slight design change. In the original proposal, we were going to put vinyl laminate flooring, which I can't remember the acronym for right now. LVT. Yes, which matches our classrooms. And then when we pulled up the carpet, the original hardwood floor was actually in really good shape. And we had talked about, so we've spent a lot of time actually talking about the maintenance of a hardwood floor with kids can be problematic and requires regular ongoing maintenance. We had originally picked the LVT to be in classrooms because it's easy to maintain. But after discussions with Kelly and David Rogers and Adam and Alan, we actually have decided to restore the original historical hardwood floors, knowing that they'll need to be refinished every couple of years, but it actually is very inexpensive to refinish them, much cheaper than the LVT. We will repurpose the LVT that was purchased for the library, and we'll actually put it in the foyer of the auditorium, which we also are redoing. So it's not a waste, but we think it might be $1,000 every couple of years to refinish the library if we need to, but we can always throw LVT on the top of that if we ultimately decide that it's a maintenance issue. But given the beautiful history of this campus, we wanted to try and restore that floor to its original condition.
That's great. I had a couple of questions also. I wondered why we need an architect for the window replacements. Is that typical to use an architect for window replacements? I think that's my husband.
Right. There are structural and window replacement. That was the purpose of it.
And
Okay.
it's not simply just like an actual window, a broken window. It's a window upgrade more than anything.
Got it.
Right. And there are
and I was also
for dual pane windows, things like that.
Yeah.
I missed that last part. That's okay. And I also wondered about even with the new aquatic center, we're still keeping the old locker rooms. Is that correct? I noticed the HVAC replacements for the locker rooms, and I just wondered if we know what's going to happen with the old locker rooms.
The old locker rooms will still remain.
Got it. Thank you.
And also, I believe they currently don't have heat. They get lots of help tickets on them.
Got it. Okay. Those are my only questions.
Or the heater keeps breaking.
I have driving by Miramani, it looks like the field's gotten pretty gnarly again.
In terms
Any
of just,
comments?
In terms of just the color?
It looks like some black or some brown spots and stuff. I was just, because it looked so good for a while there.
The grass, there's a Bermuda hybrid that actually goes dormant during this time of year.
Okay.
So it's
Do you prepare for these? Did I give you that question ahead of time? That was a great answer.
No, but
you and I are like.
I've been asked that numerous times throughout the community, asking if all the grass was dying. So it is not.
Got it.
And the roots did get a good foothold before it went dormant, so we're in good shape for spring.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's a great grass, that Bermuda grass. It really is good. It's really hard to kill.
It is. Once it's established,
I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. 7.4.1 classified substitute recruitment plan. The proposal to increase available classified subs.
So as I mentioned earlier, we have just under 25% of our staff has been out, and we continue to have issues with recruiting classified substitutes. We had the great bonus that you passed early in the year, which has helped us a lot with our certificated substitutes, but classified is harder. Also, our salaries for classified are not equal to what you could make at, for example, fast food restaurants in locally, not in town, obviously, but outside of town. And so in an effort to try and increase substitutes so that our classified staff can stay home if they're sick and our students can still get picked up on the bus, can still be fed, can still have instructional aides, we need kind of an emergency measure to help to recruit and retain. Unlike our teacher bonus, we want our substitutes, well, obviously when our teacher substitutes to continue to come back. And so what we've learned from that is that having ongoing bonuses helps to retain them for longer. And so for every 100-hour or 40 hours that they work, we would provide an additional $100. We spent a lot of time thinking about this. How much was the right amount? Because we don't want our substitute employees to make more than our current employees, but we also needed to have an amount that was potentially enough so that it would actually make a difference in the people who are coming through our door. So we spent a lot of time, had a lot of conversations. We had our labor management meeting with CSEA earlier this week, and they were very grateful for this proposal.
I'd move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor, Michael?
Aye.
Kevin?
Yes.
Shelley?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Jane? Aye. That passes 5-0. Letter of intent to negotiate. Is there any discussion or is there a motion? Oh, I have to open a public hearing.
This is a public hearing.
Sorry. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll move.
I'll second. All those in favor, Michael?
Aye.
Kevin?
Yes.
Shelley?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Jane? Aye. That passes 5-0. Are there any comments from the public?
I'll move to close the public hearing.
All those in favor, Michael?
Aye.
Kevin?
I'm going to go a little weird here. I'm going to say no. No. Yes. Yes.
Shelley?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Jane? Aye. That passes 5-0.
Sorry, hold a second.
Rebecca? Do we also have, is that all we need to do, or do we need to have a motion to approve the letter?
You can take a motion to approve the letter. That's fine.
Well, I'll move to approve the letter as well.
I'll second.
Was that Rebecca?
Yeah.
Sorry. All those in favor, Michael?
Aye.
Kevin?
Yes.
Shelley?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Jane? Aye. That passes 5-0. I would like to take a 5-minute break before we go on to the curriculum instruction. Sorry.
No problem. Reason.
Thank you. Right. 7.5.1 is our plan for academic achievement, grades 3 through 5.
So just as a reminder, this is something that we are bringing back again because we hear the community's concern over test scores, and we, although we don't have better test scores to show, we want to show the community the work that we're doing around academic achievement and how that is a core focus and goal of both the board and all district administrators and teachers. So we will be showing this by grade band every meeting for the foreseeable future. Dr. Knox is going to give this presentation. I think I did.
Oh, how do I not see it?
I didn't. Well, I can see it. Let me make it so you all can see it. There you go.
There we go. You can go on to the next slide. So, TK through 5th grade is very connected in the type of programming and curriculum that we use. However, there's a pretty distinct difference between TK through 2nd grade and then 3rd through 5th. As Tiffany mentioned, they're separated into those bands. And so we wanted to bring the presentation to you separately so you could see the differences, but certainly it will feel very similar to the presentation last month. So with the core curriculum, in all grades across elementary, they use all the same programs with the exception of math. We currently have full implementation of Levered as a pilot in our 3rd through 5th grade classes. So that's the only difference, but Journeys, Studies Weekly, and then Science Weekly and Mystery Science are used TK through 5th grade. I mentioned it before, but I'll just say it again. We started our science, we're trying to adopt an NGSS aligned full science curriculum. We started the pilot the year the pandemic hit, and that set us way back. But we are picking the second half of that pilot up this spring, and hopefully we'll be bringing to you a recommendation for a full science program to start utilizing next fall. Moving on to the next slide. Some of these are the same as what you saw in the TK through 2nd grade presentation, but some of them are different. So one of the differences is a program called Read Live Naturally. And that's a program that really, where in the younger grades, we're working more on the phonics and learning those fundamental skills. At this level with Read Live Naturally, it's a reading fluency and comprehension program. So it is used for intervention, and we do assign students to it based on needs. So not everybody gets it, only those that need intervention. Lexia learning is primarily used in K through 2nd grade, but with COVID, we actually purchased it using COVID funding, even through our 3rd grade students, because we knew that we would have some of those, some of that learning loss extending further. And so we wanted to make sure we could offer that to our students. On occasion, we offer it to 4th and 5th graders, but that's not as common.
Can I pause and say we actually had a community member who works with students outside of the district who was like, my grandchild participated in Lexia and loved it so much and learned so much and made such great strides. Could we get this for these other particular students? And we unfortunately can't do that, but it was great to hear somebody who thought it was so great that they were trying to bring it for additional students. And so that was good feedback.
It really is a great program. And what I do love about it is it can be used for intervention, but it also can be used for extension. So I've seen 1st graders, like by the end of 1st grade, get all the way through the 5th grade level with their skills, right? So, but then if you take 3rd through 5th grade, you might have, for example, 3rd graders using it to go back to those K1 and 2 skills. So it's a work at your own pace kind of program, but it's really great when you pair it with a teacher and small group support, because the program tells teachers where kids are getting stuck, and you can print out hard pages and do small group work to help get those kids past their skills when they get back onto the computer to see if they can make that progress and get over the hurdles. So really strong program. Reflex Math is a fluency program for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. It is primarily used in 2nd through 5th grade. And I cannot believe I forgot to add Frax Math, which we added this year. And that is Frax, made by the Reflex program, but it is all about learning fractions starting in 3rd grade. So we actually added that program to our 3rd through 5th grade as well. And again, those programs are meant to really just give kids more fluency in being able to do those sorts of activities quickly. It's usually a program that is Maybe kids are on there 10, 15 minutes daily, if that, but it's meant to be supplemental so that they can work on those fluency skills in math.
And that's interesting because I know there was a big pushback when we kind of did this Common Core and all the everything, and also the teachers were saying, well, they've got to still have to do basic math skills.
Yeah, it's true. Common Core doesn't address the fluency factor of being able to do things, add and subtracting, that sort of stuff with automaticity. And so this is what that program is trying to fill as far as a gap for sure.
Well, and fractions are such an important component to all later math, algebra, chemistry, physics. All of that requires really good understanding of ratios and fractions.
Barrier. We see that when kids struggle with fractions and decimals, for example, that becomes a barrier that future causes them to stumble in math the rest of the grade levels, and as well, in science and other areas. So we really want to catch those gaps early on so that we get kids over those barriers before they move into middle school and high school. Journeys has a great program for first through fifth grade. I shared this last time, but it's a grade level intervention program that can be used in the moment. So if students are, reading a story that goes with a unit and they're struggling with some pieces of that, they can be pulled aside using Write and Reader, which is a complementary feature to that exact unit with that exact story, but with extra scaffolding and support led by a teacher in a small group. So we have that for support. And then, of course, our PLC work is constant in elementary, and that is where we are bi-monthly coming together, analyzing data, and using that data to decide what we need to reteach with grade level skills for students. So we do that work continuously. And then extensions. So what's so nice about things like Reflex and even Lexia is, as I said, they can be used for an intervention, but they can also be used as an extension to move forward. We certainly have third graders in that Frax math already moving forward into the fourth and fifth grade level of fractions, which is exciting, and the same with Reflex. So those can be used as extensions as well as interventions. Levered, one of the selling points of this curriculum is that the program is set up with foundational skills, critical standards or critical skills, and then enrichment. And so the goal is always to make sure each group of kids get to the critical skills. You want them that means they kind of mastered their grade level standards. But for kids who get through the material quickly, because it is definitely a lot of learning at your own pace, there's skills that are enrichment and extension that kids can work on while the rest of the class is hopefully just getting to those critical skills. So that's built right into the program, and I know that the students enjoy it, and the teachers really think that it's pretty powerful. I shared Accelerated Reader last time. I think we're all super familiar with this program. It's been around for a very long time, but students are able to take a reading test, usually 3 times a year. It gives them a zone of where their independent reading level is. And then all of the books in our libraries are coded so kids can pick books in their zone. And you want kids, and they're doing independent reading and they don't have the support of an adult, like a teacher in a classroom setting, you want them reading at their independent reading level. And when they do that, the research shows that they can increase their reading skills. So that's a way for students to, work at any level. So of course, there's times when we see fifth graders, for example, reading at 10th grade level. So that program allows them to do that. Did I finish that slide?
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then I did share this last time as well. All the curriculum at this point really do offer scaffolded activities. So even in Journeys and in Studies Weekly, for example, there's support materials that allow students to do, for example, some project-based learning activities or some activities that would lend itself to extensions and higher order thinking skills for students who are ready for that. So that happens, continuously throughout the classroom setting. We do offer math accelerations starting in fifth grade. So we use a variety of measures to identify kids in fifth grade who we think in their fifth grade year could work on the fifth grade math curriculum, but as well through another online program, usually in a home setting, but sometimes also in the classroom setting when they have sort of downtime. They can work on sixth grade math material at the same time. And then this allows them to essentially skip sixth grade math. So when they are sixth graders at Matillah, they are in seventh grade, and not just seventh grade math, but seventh grade advanced math. And then we see when they get to eighth grade, those students who participated in that and are excelling in that, they end up taking a math class at Nordhoff first period and then coming back over to Matillah. So they essentially skip a grade in math by doing that. So I think that's it for that slide. And I said this last time, so I'll just say it again. One of the things that we talk about often is the concept of sometimes you have to go slow to go fast. And I use that as a way to express the importance of social emotional learning and thinking about things like our toolbox program, which is fantastic in the TK5 setting. And then of course, restorative practices, which we'd already talked about. We know that if kids are not feeling good and if they're dealing with conflict or they're dealing with frustration in a classroom setting or in a school setting, that is going to really negatively impact their ability to move forward academically. And so we prioritize these concepts in our setting, in all settings, whether that's the playground or the lunch line or the classroom, to make sure that we're meeting kids, meeting kids' emotional needs so that those are worked on and not barriers to academic progress. And then last, this is exactly the same as you saw last time. Quite a bit of professional development is happening to, again, just sort of help make sure that we're maintaining the best educational environments for academic achievement. Our principals are participating in the CAPS network, which is to make sure that they are kept up to speed on PLC best practices for PLCs. And this year, they're bringing 2 staff members with them as well. So we've got a teacher team going with the principals this year to the CAPS network. We did a professional development with Universal Design for Learning, and we have plans to continue to help support that implementation. And in our elementary setting, we have a good amount of teachers. I think we're at 10 or 12 who've chosen to take an opportunity that we're giving them through online webinars to use the Daily 5 or to learn the Daily 5 literacy strategy. So we're excited about those opportunities for our teachers.
In addition, coming up, based on our educator effectiveness plan, we'll be sending a group of teachers and administrators to the PLC conference, which is really, can be very impactful for the team who goes.
And we've mentioned it several times, but that was our goal, again, before COVID hit. I think the last team we sent was January, right before COVID hit. And so we really had a goal to send as many teachers as possible in cycles to PLC meetings. And so that's been on hold, but we're excited to hopefully pick that up potentially as soon as the summer.
I just want to say, I really appreciate the focus on professional development. Having been on the board for 5 years, it seems like it's become more and more robust. And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we see with our teachers is that for a long time, as we went through very difficult financial straits, that we cut professional development. And I just don't I believe it's critical for teachers, administrators, classified staff, everyone to continue to grow. Like we're educators. We can't stop learning ourselves. And, I think there may be a sentiment that teaching and learning doesn't change, but it does. And we have best practices and we grow and develop. And so we are committed to providing professional development for every employee in the district in whatever way makes sense. I know that David Rogers has just signed up for some additional classes. We've been sending people to as many trainings. Katrina Madden is not here tonight because she is at a conference learning about additional special education. So professional development is really a key core of my belief personally around how we become better as a district.
I'm very grateful for that.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I'm impressed with the number of programs we have, and the number of curriculums we're using. It's a lot. We have a lot of resources.
It is a lot. And I would say what's really great is a lot of this comes from teacher recommendations and requests. And once a handful of teachers get fired up about a program, then the whole district wants to use it. And that's what we saw with Reflex and even Frax Math, which we just added, and Lexia. And so, most of these have come on board in the last 5 years. And I think that's, we mentioned this earlier, that's been the hardest thing is we haven't been able to properly evaluate whether or not they're working or not because we've had, unreliable comparable data, right? Because of just these odd years, and this will continue to be another odd year. But, teacher feedback is that these programs are really great and they really do work with students, and we get the same feedback from parents and students, as Tiffany was mentioning earlier. So, great job.
I've got a question, because especially it comes to me tonight because there's the conversation about loss of students and competition with private schools. What are we finding as a district in terms of parents who feel like they don't want their kids to be online a lot, or using programs, who want sort of a more traditional book-based, print-based kind of education?
We do get that feedback. I think there's a couple of misconceptions that have to be cleared up. One is that I don't think kids are on these programs as much as people would think, right? So as you start to talk to parents about what it really looks like in a classroom setting, it looks very differently than people assume. These are also, screen time when you're watching movies or you're on YouTube is very different than highly academic, engaging, powerful programs. So that's the other thing that is often a misconception, that we have to actually help parents see what the kids are doing, and that helps us get a lot more buy-in with the programming. And I would say that we have a really good balance in our district of teachers who prioritize experiential learning opportunities, things like Egypt Day. I think we all know that we've done that one in the past in 6th grade. We do stuff like that all of the time. And I think that parents, as long as they give our schools a chance and they come to our schools, I think they see that we actually really do have good balance when it comes to online versus paper pencil versus experiential learning or project-based learning.
And the online programs that we select are really ones where we're utilizing them for data-based individualized instruction, right? It's very hard to provide individualized instruction, differentiated instruction from your high and low learners. And particularly in these grades, a lot of times we have very diverse, we may have kids who aren't yet fluent readers and kids who are reading Harry Potter in 3rd grade, right? And so as a teacher, the only way you can really provide daily instruction that's tailored to the kids is through a data-based program that gives kids assignments based on where they are, based on their data. And so it's not that everything is online, but for key things like math and reading, it's actually very important to be able to have that differentiated instruction. Other things like writing, not so much. And so we try and really focus these programs where it makes sense to have that data-informed daily instruction. Science would be another example where you don't really necessarily need it for science. Right?
In social studies.
In social studies, right. But those practice areas, reading and math, it is important.
And I do think one thing that COVID has brought is that experimenting with being outside learning. There's a lot more people saying, of our teachers saying, let's go outside and learn this. So that's a good thing. Anything else?
Well, I just want to again compliment the efforts and often when we're doing a lot of different things, it can end up being very scattershot, but it feels like all of this is intentional and fairly well organized. The board goals are laid out. It's very clear. It's taken forever to get there, but now it's like really specific and fulsome, and I like that. And all I can say is to the folks who work in this district, anybody that thinks that we're not working hard or they're not working hard is just not paying attention. There are strategies to improve our student performance. There are strategies to improve our students' emotional welfare. There are strategies to connect our parents. It's all there. Sometimes things work better than others because that's what happens when you try new stuff. But the efforts are there, and I think by and large we're seeing fruit. So I just get frustrated when I hear people come in and say, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's like, well, how much time you got? So I just want to say thank you.
I do think also, I've talked to a couple of realtors, and some of the people who are coming from Los Angeles, for example, they don't even think to look for a public school. That's just not what's in their knowledge house, So I think we are competing against that. What is the natural tendency from where they're from? So hopefully we can improve on that. Anything else? Future agenda, agenda item 8. Any items for future agendas?
Can I share some of the items that are coming up and just that will naturally be on the agenda in February? Just a couple. We will have a plan for TK. As you know, there's been some significant changes in the TK law. So we will have a TK plan. We will also have a salary comparison so that, as Shelley was alluding to earlier, a comparison of where our district employees fall relative to other districts. I've seen some things out there that our employees might be paid more, and so we'll provide that data. An update on solar because we will be past our 30% design plan at that point. Also very exciting, an adult ed update. We are making some significant changes to our adult ed program and potentially adding some new courses. And so we'll be giving you an idea of where we are and where we want to go with that. And then also our bond budget updates. This has been something we've been working on. I keep thinking it's going to be every month, but we've had some cleanup to do on the back end in terms of our numbers and accounting and just making sure that everything we bring to you is really solid, but an idea of where we are with all of our bond expenditures and where we plan to go, and just an update for you on, we allocated this much for this project. This is how much we now think it's going to cost, that kind of thing. So those are our upcoming items in February. And then in March, we have our second interim.
I love that we're sort of given a preview. I mean, it almost sounds like next week, on the show. I think it'd be great to put it on the website, that these things that we do know are coming will be coming. Why not, right? Let people know.
When I've done that and things have not been on the agenda and there is considerable angst about that, I have been trying to restructure how to do that so that that previously said anticipated agenda items, but then if it wasn't on the agenda, that became a weapon against us, and it's hard for me.
Yeah. Well, I know the one issue you're talking about.
Yeah, but so I stopped putting it on the agenda because if it seems like if it's not 100%, then it could be problematic.
I would like to add Dr. Morse's contract and salary to a future agenda item.
It's actually on my Trello board. I just didn't read it.
I'll agree with that one.
Yeah. And one thing, I think we talked about this, and I can't even remember how we characterize it. It's been like over a year. You're going to do something about our online policies or privacy, that whole thing. I do feel like that does need to.
The login, I think,
Yeah.
I think that has changed. I think that.
Yeah, and I think I sent you some updates around that, but if you would like an information item about it, we can put that in there.
Back in the days of Thane, even, I remember I thought we were going to have like a whole big discussion about, it was going to be a policy discussion.
Technology.
It's the policies around student data are actually already in our board policies and in our annual notices to parents. And so, and we're not changing those. They're a legally compliant language that we use, and we are in compliance with those legal parameters, but we can certainly provide you with an update of what's currently in your board policies and by extension in our annual parents' rights initiative.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think
we'll
we're two ships passing in the night. So, but if Jane knows what
yeah, I'll be at the next agenda prep. I know what you're talking about. Okay. Cool. Okay. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
All right, night, everybody.